When the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run, there can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? But the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Is there aught we hold in common with the greedy parasite, who would lash us into serfdom and would crush us with his might? Is there anything left to us but to organize and fight? For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
They say our day is over, they say our time is through. They say you need no union if your collar isn't blue. Well, that is just another lie the boss is telling you, for the union makes us strong.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They divide us by our color, they divide us by our tongue. They divide us men and women, they divide us old and young. But they'll tremble at our voices when they hear these verses sung. For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. They have taken untold millions that they never toiled to earn. But without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel can turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoarded gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong.
Hello, 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 folks. How we doing? How we doing, folks? That's right, I haven't slept yet. For you see, I was too anxious after stream to get to sleep, and so I went, as I do when I am restless, I went and ran. Ran for about an hour. And while I was doing that, I watched AOC's call to action that went out late yesterday evening, and that I had not seen prior to our earlier stream. And it is really fucking good. So good, in fact, that rather than go to bed, I decided that I wanted to share this with all of you because, honestly, I know I've been freaking out a little bit, maybe a lot bit, seeing this helped a lot. So it helped me connect, assume a short stream. Well, AOC's statement is about an hour and a half long, and I tend to more than double my commentary. So maybe it's going to probably be about a 3-hour long stream, maybe longer. Generally speaking, to guesstimate here. So going over this helped me to put together a lot of dots that I was aware of individual pieces, but AOC does an excellent job of drawing lines between these seemingly disconnected points. And I think having a more cohesive narrative for what is happening is going to do us a lot of good. It's going to be really helpful. Okay? So I think it will help us to understand why the Democrats have been doing what they've been doing. It will certainly help us to understand what we can do. And it will also put into focus what is happening as a whole with this whole Donald Trump, Elon Musk thing. Because there's a lot here that I'm sure if you individually posed different ideas to each of you, if I threw something out to you guys, you would get it. You'd be like, yeah, sure, that obviously they want to make money. Like we've been aware of these different pieces, but not necessarily the entire picture. And I think AOC in particular here does a really, really, really good job of laying out the connections and why everything's happening. And it really does kind of help to make the problem smaller and more manageable with that narrative in mind. So, to that end, we're going to be jumping into this. It's really, really quite good. Before we get too deep, remember, like the stream. That's very important. Helps more people find it. And yeah, we're going to be hitting the ground running here. You have a friend Vox Syndicate, you have a friend who is a staffer for a senator. They're freaking out as well. Yep. For example, one of the things that I hadn't realized, and I should have, until AOC mentioned it, is that Congress doesn't come back into session until today, guys. Congress has been out of session. If you've been asking yourself where are the Democrats, where is Congress, they've been in their home turf. They've been campaigning. They've been, talking with their local constituents. All of this happened. The majority of this happened while they were back at home. They haven't been in Washington, D.C. And that was kind of surprising, I just hadn't really thought about that, frankly. So anyway, we're gonna get into a bigger story here, but hope you're all interested. Hope you're ready to buckle in. Before we get started, you guys doing all right? Hello, Banana Brains. What's the occasion? We're going over AOC's overview of the situation, who are the different movers and shakers, why they're doing what they're doing, and what we can do about it in a nutshell. It is, I think, if you have been really worried about what is happening in this country and really taken in by despair and such, I think that this is a really good primer. In a way that no one in a position of power has really openly communicated with folks like us. So I think that is really useful, and we're going to be talking about that. All right. So let's dive in, shall we?
Let's talk. Let's give you all a few minutes to join, see what's up. Hello, everyone. Just giving it a second for folks to join. Let's talk about what's going on.
Can I just say, completely unrelated to anything, AOC's hair is always fabulous. It's always so good. And Vox Syndicate, we went over the Indivisible stuff last night.
Is happening right now, what we can do about it, what our marching orders are, and what Democrats can be doing, what we are doing that also isn't being communicated to the public as much. So let's fix some of this. But hello, everybody. All right. 20K.
Wait, dude, do I sleep? Not when important shit is happening.
All right. So, first things first. One of the things that I want you all to understand is that if you are watching the news right now and you are feeling overwhelmed by all of the constant headlines and developments and what is happening and federal government changes over here and ICE raids over here and plane crashes over there, and you are feeling so overwhelmed, first of all, know that you are not alone. And second of all, know that that is exactly what this administration is trying to get you to feel. They are trying to get people to feel, and someone said Musk, yeah, you got Elon Musk raiding the federal government and the Treasury. There's all this stuff going on, and it is so easy and it's natural when you see all of this stuff falling apart to get paralyzed.
Oh no, we're in a new stream, Amber Brains.
All of it is so overwhelming.
Totally different stream now.
And you don't know what to do about it, but it's also very pressing information, and so you know it's going to affect your life or the life of people that you know, but what do you do about it? What is Congress doing about it? What's our leadership doing about it? The first order of business is to self-regulate. What authoritarian regimes try to do is that they often try to, what is known as flood the zone, do so much at once, or try to do so much at once that it gets carried in the news that you feel overwhelmed and paralyzed.
And I'm gonna admit to this. It has been working on me. It has been actively a struggle to focus on what I can do, as opposed to the absolute despair of watching so many things happen so quickly. And so many of those things have extreme ramifications for my life and the lives of people that I love. And it is very hard to stop, breathe, and put it all in perspective. It can seem immensely overwhelming. So I do think, and I am gonna be level with you guys. I have watched this already. I watched it while I was working out earlier. Her advice here, to breathe, to center yourself, to be able to check in with your mental health and be like, I can handle this right now. This is a moment in time. I am going to breathe and I'm going to focus on what I can change, right? That is necessary for what she's going to lay out here. A good, maybe half this video, maybe a little bit more than half of this video, is her laying out the current situation. And it will be overwhelming unless you can You're in that mode where you can, you know, that's going to be a necessary component of this. Hey, Zeke the Beast.
Important for you to understand that the paralysis and shock that you feel right now is the point. They are trying to induce a state of passivity among the general public. So it is of personal importance for you, and it is also of political importance to take a breath. That does not mean tune out. That does not mean get apathetic. It does not mean, to just that you just have to forget or whatever. It just means take a breath, because we are about to lock in and focus. And I already know you. I already hear you all. How do I focus? What do I do?
Okay, chat. I need this commitment from you guys, okay? I need this commitment from you guys. Are you guys ready to lock in on this conversation? Are you? Because, I locked in on this, and goddamn, did it do me a world of good mentally, okay? Are you guys ready to lock in? When I say, are you ready to lock in, I mean, I don't want to see in chat you guys being like, oh, but no one will do anything about it. And it's like, well, you know what? Part of your job is to get people to do things about it. So lock in. Lock in. I need this video right now. I'm a mess. Locked in, Captain, my captain. Hell yeah, we like to see that, Jazz Dog. Let's go. No doomering in chat. Indeed. Let's go. Doomering, by the way, I think AOC in this video has a really good turn of phrase here that, doomering is merely acceptance. You are accepting the abuses and the overreach, just from the opposite side of, it's acceptance by a different name with a different aesthetic. And I really do think that's true.
Just take the breath first, okay? Take the breath first. Now, let's talk about all the different things that are going on. And again, a little bit of a preview of how do you say? A little bit of a preview of what the answer is that we are going to have to divide and conquer. Okay? So no, you as one human being are not going to be able to appoint a new FAA administrator that Elon Musk forced out. You and you as an individual are not going to be able to tackle the FAA crisis, tackle the OPM crisis, tackle all of these things at once.
But I wanna
go, ICE, immigration, criminal, all of this stuff, and that's okay. Pick some of the things and trust that when we have mass mobilization, we are going to be addressing these things. Do what you can. That's the second principle, okay? Do what you can. You do not, and what you can do is enough, okay?
For me, I think that was an important one to hear. I think that this might be true for a lot of us. I think a lot of us want to be able to fix all the things, and I know that I am guilty of that. I want to just take the things that are all broken and fix them and make it better, and I can't do that, and it kind of cuts me up inside, and there are a lot of these issues that are really big or seem really big, and we might not have agency over those specific things in our immediate ability to influence. But we do have some things we can influence in our different areas. You know, different people in our communities, in our corners, who we can help, and who, you know, different ways we can frustrate the Trump regime, you know? Different ways we can inconvenience them, different ways we can, you know, throw sugar in the engine. So I think it is worth noting that, like, you know, we're also going to be in different places when it comes to, like, our ability to, like, go out in public, or our ability to, you know, mentally handle things. And you know what? As long as we're doing one or two of these things, I think we're going to be all right. You know? Like, pick the 1, 2, 3 things that you can do and do those things. And trust that other people are going to be doing their part, because that's one thing that I've been missing, I think, in my advocacy on this, is that, you know, shimp together strong. We are, all of us together are very strong, in part because we can all cover different things. We're all good at different things. We're all positioned in different ways. And that is a power in and of itself. So as long as you're doing something, and, you know, maybe you'll want to do a little bit more, but as long as you're doing something, that is enough. Have faith and trust in your friends, in your loved ones, in your communities, and in everyone across this country who's in a similar boat to you.
Do what you can, and what you can do is enough. That's principle number 2. Now, and again, what can we? I'm going to get there. Relax. Take a breath. We're going to get there. What is going on is so comprehensive, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you all as comprehensive an overview as I can, so we can figure out, and you can have the tools to figure out how to lock in and how to mobilize. So that's number 1 and number 2. Now, someone said I should make a handbook. Maybe we will. Now, let's talk about a couple of things.
Sometimes
I want to give an overview as to what is happening right now. Donald Trump, as we saw, was inaugurated several weeks ago. And who you saw behind him mattered. The people who stood behind Donald Trump at his inauguration are some of the people that are playing a major role in upholding and supporting what is going on. That is important to know, because we need to know who are the folks that are responsible. And as we all saw, when Donald Trump was sworn in, he had several billionaires standing behind him. He had, of course, Elon Musk. He had Jeff Bezos. He had Mark Zuckerberg. You also had the CEOs of major corporations like TikTok and Apple, etc. These are people who are taking part in their own way, the same way that I'm telling you all to kind of divide and conquer. They are also dividing and conquer. They're acting very strategically, and they are each playing their own role, right? So the way that they're playing their own role, we can each be playing our own role, all right? Now, everyone's like, all this stuff. I'm gonna tell you all right now, if you cannot lock in for this comprehensive conversation, there's no like BuzzFeed, TikTok, 5 tips to dismantling fascism. We gotta lock in, okay?
You ready to lock in, chat? You ready to lock in? Thought you went to bed? No, I was too anxious, so I went and ran 7 miles, and then ate a little bit of food and drank some water, and took a shower, and now I'm here. I'm back, baby. You can't get rid of me, all right? You can't get rid of me, because I watched this while I was working out and I realized it was probably too important to just wait, considering how worried people are and how fast things are currently moving here in the good old USA of A. So I figured you all who, like me, are having trouble sleeping might very much benefit from this. So, foregoing sleep, we are diving into this, and I'm going to be getting this out as soon as I can on the YouTube channel, because this is really important. This is really important. No one else from the Democratic Party has taken the time to actually step up, explain what is happening in digestible terms, what is being done about it, and what we can do about it, So this is really important. And if I had been aware of this last night, we would have covered this, but I did not find out about it until after I was done streaming. So anyway, here we go.
Conversation.
Lock in, folks.
Maybe people will be making TikTok compilations after this. Feel free,
hey, Real Red Hum.
But I have a lot here that I need to download to you all. All right. So, a lot of you are asking about.
Wait, really important question I have. What's your process for finding news and learning more about info about this stuff? I just get all my info from live streamers, but I think I need to put in an extra effort and look into things yourself. That's great. You should do that. Yes. Typically, before a stream, I spend anywhere from 1 to 3 hours looking at news stories, trying to figure out what will be interesting to cover, what might be important to cover. And, I use Twitter, Blue Sky, in part to source the stories. I also have like a certain rotation of like Republican commentators that I look at to see kind of what they're talking about and prioritizing. I'll look at major news sites to see if there's anything, or even top news stories trending on Reddit. And I'll read through the stuff that I'm going to be sharing with you guys. Unless it's like a video I can go into blind, and in which that's most Republican propaganda videos, because you can debunk those on the fly. Like they are barely concealing their agenda. Fulmar Music, thank you for the 2 5-pound donos. I appreciate it. How's it going? It's going all right. Let's go.
What is, and that is the right question to be asking, because what Donald Trump has done is that he has completely given up his power.
Zeke the Beast, I'm over on Blue Sky, just Riverboat Jack.
And handed a lot of it over to Elon Musk. Elon Musk has appointed
You're a good egg, Zeke.
Some teenagers and some people in their early 20s into essentially trying to raid federal government systems, including sensitive and classified information at the U.S. Department of Treasury.
Oh, Jazz Dog, I also just follow like a crap ton of academics and journalists on my social media accounts. So that also helps, because generally if anything's really important happening that affects academics, they'll be talking about it, or journalists will also have their beats, which is very useful.
I want to tell you their stories that they're doing this to, and they're just like wholesale, as we saw, freezing federal programs and the Trump administration tried doing this through an executive order, freezing federal programs, freezing federal financing. That's why they went for the U.S. Department of Treasury. They're going for the money first.
Yep.
They are taking data. We are also hearing preliminary reports that they are potentially stealing that data and downloading it for private use, which of course is alarming, okay? This moment is scary, but we need to go in eyes wide open, all right?
Yep, damage
paralysis as a response to fear is understandable,
but we have to acknowledge what's happening, and then we're going to get somewhere, okay? They are taking access to the Treasury Department. They are firing career level federal employees. And I want you to know that there are two broad categories of federal workers. There are political appointees. Those are the people, as you can imagine, who are, when a president changes, when a new president is elected, whether they're a Republican or a Democrat, they can appoint a whole slew of federal workers. Those are known as political appointees.
This is exactly what we were talking about when we went over Project 2025. A lot of their goal was to put in the right kind of political appointees who wouldn't ask too many questions, who would just do what they were told, who were perfectly loyal to Donald Trump, and their entire role was to be easily slotted in as appointees and kind of, from there, presumably cutting each appointee would cut down their department, right? That's kind of what Project 2025 was all about, eliminating the deep state by using these appointees to get rid of the lifelong career bureaucrats.
Then there are career professionals. Science research in how we find cures for diseases, from everything from cancer to diabetes, from our national energy systems. Our air traffic controllers are career professionals. They are not, a new president can't just get elected and snap their fingers and politically appoint an air traffic controller, because that requires years of training. And these are what are known as federal career workers. What is alarming about this moment, one of the things...
You guys are saying stream froze? It's back? You guys having trouble? You can just take a look real quick here. I don't have any trouble on my end. Huh. Weird. All right. Twitch didn't freeze? Okay.
Is that they're going after money and they're going after people, okay? They're going after money there we go, sorry about that. They're going after money with the U.S. Treasury Department, and then they're going after people, which is known as OPM. You're going to be hearing OPM a lot. That's the Office of Personnel Management. And by the way, again, this stuff is important because one of the most important things that you can do in an environment and a time like this is to educate yourself. Knowing what is going on is not the same thing as reading a headline, okay? Knowing how things work, political education. This stuff is important because you can't do anything if you don't know where the vulnerabilities are and understand the big picture, okay? So I'm gonna get to all of your questions, but pump the brakes, okay? Breathe. Now, once again, two areas. They're going after the money with the U.S. Treasury Department, and they're going after the people, which is OPM, Office of Personnel Management, the federal career appointees. It is normal for a president to come in and to largely dismiss a lot of the previous administration's political appointees. They have the right to do that. What Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing is that they're going in and they are gutting the career professionals who have legal protections, who have decades of experience, and we will say they are playing with fire in doing that. Why are they playing with fire?
Because goddamn, you're getting rid of all the people who know how to do anything. Like, holy moly.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I represent LaGuardia Airport. It's in my district, not too far. So I represent LaGuardia Airport. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the neighborhoods around airports are filled with workers for those airports. So
Makes sense.
I know a decent amount about airports, air traffic control, flights, etc. These are kind of the weird things that happen when you're a member of Congress. You become like experts in these very niche things that affect your community. So many of my workers, many of my constituents who are workers at LaGuardia and also who serve JFK Airport, are experiencing and seeing what is happening up close. This stuff, all of this stuff matters because it's connected. And when you see how it's connected, you feel less overwhelmed because you start to see a central theme emerge.
I can personally vouch for this. Having now watched this entire thing, I can confirm that I am a lot less scared. I'm still very worried. I'm still very aware of what the stakes are. But understanding your enemy kind of demystifies it. You know? It's empowering to know your enemy. Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership over on YouTube. I appreciate it.
You have to tackle 100 things, starts to feel like you're tackling a handful of things, okay? So
this is on her Instagram.
So you have this OPM dismissal and federal freezing. Last week, and also in the last 2 weeks, Donald Trump, 2 weeks ago, Donald Trump gets sworn in. Elon Musk then puts pressure on both Donald Trump and applies political pressure to dismiss the FAA, the Federal Aviation Commission, or rather the FAA. The Federal Aviation Administrator, they put pressure, Elon Musk put pressure to dismiss the FAA administrator. Now, why did he do that? Theme, okay? Elon Musk put pressure on him because the FAA administrator was advocating for, I believe, either fines or other sorts of punitive measures on Elon Musk because of violations that they were doing over at SpaceX around safety. So Elon pressures the Trump administration and forces the dismissal of an FAA administrator. That's part number one. Then a week later, or a couple of days later, the Trump administration, through OPM, through Elon Musk, through all these people, then send this ham-fisted letter out to virtually every federal employee, including some of the workers at LaGuardia Airport, and including virtually almost every air traffic controller in the United States.
So this is where it started clicking for me, right? Because I was aware of the first part of this story, that Elon Musk had pressured the head of the FAA into stepping down. I was aware of that, and I was aware that it was because the FAA was going to levy fines on SpaceX for its launching protocols and, you know, snafus, we'll say. What I didn't put together is the OPM memo going out to all air traffic controllers. Guys, the other day we learned about air traffic controller working conditions. We learned that, like, you know, they, like, 50% of them are functioning alcoholics because they cannot go and get, like, mental health care because then they'll be on leave for, like, 8 months. You know, like, they are like trapped in not very well paying jobs with not that great job security or benefits, and are increasingly being predated on by capitalists who are trying to create essentially privatized air traffic control towers. And then it hit me, if you send out this memo encouraging people to quit from their jobs that they all despise, like, air traffic controllers hate their job so much of the time. And so, like, that has I imagine, and I don't know that we have the data yet, I would be very curious to know how many air traffic controllers quit after that memo went out. How many air traffic controllers took them up on that offer? You know? I am very curious about that. Very curious about that. Glitch in the Matrix again? I don't know what you're saying. So, this all is starting to connect in interesting ways. Let's see where it goes.
Saying, we want you to leave your job. And we are going to offer you a quote unquote buyout, which is not a buyout, mind you, and whose legality is highly questionable. And their ability to even uphold to their promise is, virtually none at all. Saying, we want to push out every federal worker, including air traffic controllers. And
good to have you here too, Z.
What happens? What do we see? In an environment where air traffic controllers are already extremely strained, we do not have enough air traffic controllers in the United States.
If you're wondering how privatized air traffic control towers work, they just fire all the air traffic controllers. This actually happened to an airport outside of San Diego, I believe. They had their air tower has no air traffic controllers because all of them quit after the tower was privatized. So generally, air traffic control just doesn't work at privatized towers.
Long rolling crisis in this country, and the reason we don't have air traffic controllers is because Republicans have cut budgets for training, for investment, for the federal pipeline and procuring air traffic control. That job, as we know, is
San
not
Francisco?
a joke.
Cool.
You can make one mistake and hundreds of people can be dead. But it has been taken seriously enough that we have not had a significant airline crash in this way in, I believe, since 2009. Anyways, all of this is to say is that they then push all these air traffic controllers and give them all a letter saying it's time for you to go. And also what happens? Now we have an initial plane crash that has occurred. When we mess with federal government.
Also, I believe like the next day there was another plane crash. Like, not to be like conspiratorial or anything, but like I think a lot of the systems our airplanes rely on are kind of held together with spit and glue and prayers.
Systems. Lives are at stake.
Hey, Zero Saber.
This rhetoric that Elon Musk and MAGA and whatever have made in ginning up all of this conspiratorial mentality in order to get people to think that none of this matters and it can all be gutted is designed for exactly this kind of outcome.
Yep.
At the end of the day, the United States federal government is responsible for some of the most sensitive, broad-based, and important infrastructure, not just in the country, but in the world. Okay? So...
Wait, how do they privatize an air traffic control tower? The airport sells it. They contract operation of the air traffic control tower out to private corporation. Private corporation promises to run it for cheaper than the airport is capable of running it. And, they do that by slicing the pay and benefits of air traffic controllers. Or forcing them to quit, downsizing their ranks. And they have multiple contractors bidding against each other for the lowest bid for the airport. And the airport goes, boy, howdy, you run this for practically nothing. That's great. And the private corporation is like, yes, I do, indeed. And then they fire all the air traffic controllers.
They are doing. Why are they doing it? Why are they doing it? You have not just OPM, but then you have, for example, Elon Musk talking about USAID, and he's like, we're going to dismantle USAID. He then also posts today, and this gives you a hint, he then also posts today about a very specific federal program at the Treasury.
Well, the airport pays the air traffic control contractor the money, which is less than what they would pay the air traffic controllers. And then the company comes in, just cuts a bunch of jobs, pockets the extra. You kind of get it, right? The contractors just lie.
Known as direct file. Direct file, if you go on my rep page, if you go out to, this is my personal account, but if you go to my rep AOC account, one of the pinned posts actually is about direct file, because we spent years standing up to the lobbyists at TurboTax and H&R Block who take your money every year for you to file your own damn taxes with the federal government. And we wanted you to be able to do that for free. You can do it and have the option of doing it for free. Now, what does that have to do with this present moment? Well, I find it very interesting that it's tax season. January 1st just happened. A lot of people just got their tax return forms. And between now and April is the time where these multi-billion-dollar corporations, or the corporations that own them, or multi-million-dollar corporations, depending on who you are about to make a bunch, or could stand to lose a bunch of money, because the public finally won a free option that rolled out last year and also rolled out a year and a half ago. Now, all of a sudden, very interestingly, Elon Musk posts that he's quote unquote deleting the direct file program.
Now, I have to be all cards on the table here. I do not, I'm not sure, right? Like when I heard that, I had already heard that Elon Musk was going to be deleting direct file, or was going to get rid of it somehow via unknown mechanisms. And I remember not really understanding why. Why would someone want to make it harder to file taxes? Specifically for poor working class folk. I was casting around, and the closest I could think of was maybe Elon Musk is just really good buddies with the folks at TurboTax. Maybe that's it. But AOC has that plus a little extra, and I think it suddenly makes a lot more sense why he would do that.
They are not doing this because they care about you, obviously. They are not doing this because they care about this country. And they certainly are not doing this because they care about Republican voters. I will tell you that much right now. Because if they cared about everyday people and everyday working people, the first targets for their little raid, which is illegal, we'll get to that in a second, would not be the most essential services that can actually give people a break. They would not be going after Medicaid. They would not be going after your direct file. They would not be taking that and deleting that option, the free option for you, right before April 1st, right in the time before April 1st when you're supposed to be filing your taxes. Elon Musk is a billionaire raiding the US federal government for personal profit and for the profit of his friends. And so every single person that you saw standing behind Donald Trump at his inauguration is part of this. They may not be publicly vocal about it, but they sent a very strong message with their presence, okay? So don't let any of them act like, oh, I didn't know. Yes, they knew. Apple are in there. Apparently there's preliminary reporting that they might be rolling out Starlink, which is Elon Musk's firm, into iOS systems.
So the destruction of direct file is related to all the people standing behind Donald Trump at the inauguration. So it is instead an act of capital class solidarity, perhaps? Interesting. Go on.
Have Jeff Bezos, who runs the Washington Post, who refused and blocked, overrode their editorial board. They are controlling media, they are controlling digital communications, and they're doing all of this to prop up Trump so that they can personally profit, okay? That, at the core, is what is happening. Now, we see what's going on. What are we gonna do about it? All right, okay? And also, one more important thing. This is the most important thing. I want you all, one of the important lenses that I want you all to interpret all of this happening through is through a very important deadline that is happening in the federal government. And once you understand this, you will understand, and all of this chaos is going to start making sense, okay? Something very big is happening this year. And it's part of the structure around which all of this chaos is occurring. Because why is Elon Musk raiding the Treasury? Why are they suspending federal funding? Like, this goes beyond being a Democrat or a Republican. This is anarchy. This is just taking all this stuff over. So why at the core are we doing this? In addition to just sheer hatred, because as we see, Elon Musk, maybe you can take the boy out of apartheid, but you can't take apartheid out of the boy, apparently. He's out here doing Nazi salutes, so whatever. But in addition to a white supremacist, like whatever it is that they want to do, let's talk about, you always comes down to follow the money. There is a very important deadline that is happening this year. In 2017, Donald Trump and the Republican Party forced through one of the largest tax giveaways to the rich in modern American history.
It was at this point that all of my neurons activated at once, and I realized that I had made a miscalculation this entire time, right? Because I thought that the provisions in that tax bill kept the tax breaks for the wealthy indefinitely, whereas the tax breaks for the middle and working class sundowned this year. But the tax breaks for the wealthy also sundown this year. To the tune of, well, let's just say, hypothetically, if you wanted to renew them for an additional 5 years, and that's just, mind you, renew them for an additional 5 years, not expand them for another 5 years, well, you'd need to find another $4.6 trillion in the budget to cut in order to give that to billionaires. They're trying to find $4.6 trillion, chat. That suddenly makes a lot of the things they are doing make a lot more sense.
We are talking about grotesque levels of tax cuts that they issued at that time. We're talking about CEOs and people being able to them proposing tax cuts on like tax write-offs on yachts and private jets, but most importantly, some of the most broad-based tax cuts for the rich and the 1% in this country that we have ever seen. That happened in 2017. So why is that important to today? Those tax cuts had a sunset period, and that sunset period occurs in 2025.
All the capital interests, all the billionaires, all the 100 millionaires, they're all falling in line here for this one very specific point in time until those tax cuts get passed. That is their true goal. Everything else is ancillary. They do not care if, normal working people get hurt. They are merely centralizing everything so that they can pass the tax cuts more easily without any kind of fuss. They want to keep us disorganized so we can, we don't really realize what is happening or what their true objective is. They want to delete the direct file because, well, one, it's going to make their rich friends more marginally more rich, but mainly so that everyone doing their taxes is too busy and frustrated to realize that there's been a massive handout to the wealthiest people and corporations in American history.
2025. So now we're here. And right now, what is happening is that all of these tax cuts that billionaires and millionaires have been just getting high off the hog on over the last couple of years are now about to run dry if they do not reauthorize them, if they do not extend them, and not only if they do not extend them, but ideally they want to add to them. Massive tax cuts for some of the largest corporations that exist in America and in the world.
So, Paladin, the corporate tax breaks stood up. They did not sundown, but the individual tax breaks for billionaires and such were also going to sundown. Do I have that right? Crap, forgot to smash the like button. Yes, do not forget to smash the like button. And if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button if you're on Twitch. Okay, I do have that right. Okay, so the corporate tax breaks stayed, but the billionaires want to keep their personal wealth. That checks out. Can you get a link to this after the video's done?
They have a massive thing at stake. So right now, their task is to extend these tax cuts. And what Elon Musk wants is for these tax cuts to not only be extended, but to apply to him in a larger way than ever before so that he can amass even more money than ever before. So what does that mean? The problem with extending, they have a little wrinkle in extending some of these massive...
Yeah, exactly, Ulata. They don't have 4 years to do a cash grab. They have to do it now. And specifically, with the budget that is being passed this year. So that's their whole thing. Their whole thing is dedicated to that. Right? Zeke, the thing is, I've been casting around trying to figure out and trying to pull together a fuller picture of this. This is the first time someone in a position of power actually explained the breadth of the situation and narrativized it appropriately to explain what is going on. Okay? How long are you planning to stream this morning? We're going to go through this. That's what we're going to do. That budget has to be passed in March, correct? Yep. Has to be passed relatively early in the year. So we're kind of in the middle of their blitzkrieg that they are likely going to try and keep up until the budget passes, you know? And once their theft from the American people is complete, then I'm sure they will want to smooth things over and make people forget it ever even happened. You know, that's kind of their modus operandi. Patrick Lucas, thank you for gifting a membership over on YouTube. I appreciate the support, especially when I'm doing one of these all-nighter stream situations. Really appreciate it. I was wondering why they were pushing so hard before the midterms. This makes so much more sense now. I agree. Yeah.
Structural giveaways to the wealthiest people in this country. And the problem is that they have to pay for it.
Guys, lock in. Okay, if you're asking questions like, is the country cooked? You haven't locked in. Lock in on the discussion. Lock in on what AOC is talking about, because it is very important for us to all be on the same page by the time we get to what we can all do.
Have to pay for it.
Zeke, thank you for the $10 super chat.
Are to the
Thanks for going through this with a message. I don't have Instagram if she is doing that there.
Yeah, this is on Instagram, Zeke. So, yeah. Also, I understand. Instagram's video interface sucks so much. Usually I play Teamfight Tactics while I work out, but instead I had to watch all of this while I worked out, and that was very difficult for me, and thank you all for recognizing my sacrifice. All right.
Cost of these tax cuts are to the tune of about
Understandable, Jazz Dog. You do what you gotta do.
$4 trillion. And so if we're going to if the U.S. federal government is about to...
And again, keep in mind, AOC is a little bit off here. To extend all of the existing tax cuts, as they are, unaltered, would cost $4.6 trillion. And they're absolutely going to try to expand those tax cuts. Wouldn't surprise me if they aimed for $5 trillion. Hell, why not even 6? See what they can get away with.
Cuts for the wealthiest people are going to expire this year.
Oh, and also, one of the reasons Elon Musk is likely going after the Treasury payment systems and why the Trump administration is locked in on trying to circumvent Congress and defund different agencies and like government functions is because they're trying to find the money. Because they know Democrats are going to fight them on the budget, and they know that they have too slim a margin in the House for the budget. Like, they know they're in a rough spot, so they're looking for any kind of means to get themselves out. It makes so much more sense with this context.
And if those tax cuts are set to expire, and in order to extend them, you need to find $4 trillion. Well, where do you look? Because historically, in this country, when you need to pay for something, you pay for it with taxes. And and other, other small, other kind of alternative forms of revenue sources as well. I'm not trying to, I need to simplify, but I want to oversimplify. And especially when it comes to some of the core, most important systems, healthcare, education, etc., we have had a system where we tax progressively. Now, not in principle, not in terms of the political progressivism principle, but what it means is that the more money you make, the more you get taxed, quote unquote. We know that that's not how it works in practice, but in theory, that's how it should work, right? A billionaire should pay more in taxes than a secretary. And
it also makes a lot more sense why Donald Trump is doing the tariffs. Because he's a moron, and he thinks that it is an effective way of raising revenue. Like, he thinks that it's going to help raise the revenue needed to help pay for these massive tax cuts. Like, he genuinely thinks that. That's why he's putting them on every country. Every one of our allies. He thinks the tariffs are going to help offset the cuts.
And historically, not just billionaires.
You actually think he believes that? Yes. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it is the only thing that really genuinely makes the tariff stuff make more sense.
Mass corporations, etc. That's how we keep the lights on. That's how we keep Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, at public schools,
Like, one thing you need to keep in mind, however stupid you think Elon Musk and Donald Trump are, they are stupider. Like, they will surprise you with the depth of their idiocy. They are not intelligent men. And so I think we've genuinely been giving them both too much credit. We've been thinking that they've been like fascist masterminds, and they are fascist, but they aren't masterminds. They're just, we've been thinking, oh yes, they're fascist masterminds, but really they're like the two bungling burglars from Home Alone. Like that's the level they're operating on.
So, if these tax cuts are going to cost $4 trillion, and the government, and you're by definition not going to tax anyone else, not going to tax the rich in order to pay for it, then how are you going to pay and square that circle?
Judy Phillips, he's not backing off the tariffs. The tariff on China went into effect yesterday. The tariff against Mexico and Canada just got kicked 30 days from now. And, we'll see if it gets continuously delayed. That's definitely still on the table. But now he's threatening to levy one against Europe as well, like the European Union. For no reason, with no, negotiation, no, explanation of what he wants from any of these things. The only way it makes sense is if he's doing it as a means of raising revenue,
Two ways that you do that. One is that you tax the poor and you tax the working class and you tax the middle class. You raise taxes on that, which, by the way, they are proposing. I think if you make less than $300 or $350-ish thousand, your taxes will be going up. And actually, the more
if you aren't lucky enough to be making $500,000 a year, your taxes are going to go up so that they can pay billionaires more money. That makes sense.
Below that number you make, the more your taxes are going to go up by. So sorry, that keeps happening. So, you know, if you're making $28,000, they want you to be paying way more in taxes, especially proportionately, than if you're making $150,000. But they are proposing all of our taxes to go up. That's one way. But guess what? That's not going to that doesn't make up the difference. It may make up a small bit, but it doesn't make up the difference. $4 trillion, you are not going to make that by taxing people who make $28,000 a year a little bit more. Doesn't make it up. Math doesn't square. So they're going to do that, but it's not enough.
Cream.
The second thing that they're going to go after are massive programming cuts, or the massive programming cuts, which we will get to in a minute. And the third thing that they propose is cutting waste. First of all, they tell you all of these stories about waste and government waste.
By the way, whenever they say waste, what they mean is people. They mean they want to fire the federal workforce. I wonder if any of you can think of, like, I don't know, what do you guys think of when you think of government wasted spending? Like, if you think about the federal government and you're like, where does this money go? You know, the math doesn't really math. The defense budget, you mean the Pentagon, the entity that hasn't passed an audit in 13 years despite many attempts to audit it? Bingo, you got it.
You know, Doge and whatever. First and foremost, understand that there is already a federal agency who is a watchdog on waste in the United States. That is known as the Government Accountability Office. So all of these people acting like, oh, we're going to set up an agency to identify waste, as though that's never been an idea before, like, you know, take a number. These people, and I can tell you, in my experience, I have encountered many billionaires in my career. You all have seen many of those encounters in hearings, in other, you know, forms of questioning, etc. I can tell you that this dude is probably one of the most unintelligent billionaires I have ever met or seen or witnessed.
Shots fired.
Which, you know, you can probably even glean that from watching these people on TV. Anyways, all of that is to say is that they don't do their homework. Clearly, like, they're putting 19-year-olds in at the Treasury. This dude is not smart. And the danger in the lack of intelligence and the lack of...
What taxes do they mean? They mean, like, their income taxes. You know, like the amount of taxes that get deducted from, like, your paycheck and stuff like that. They're like, well, you know, I'll make more money in my paycheck because less will be deducted for taxes. But then they don't really take into account that, like, Republican policies are going to make everything more expensive, and, you know, the people getting the biggest tax cuts are going to be billionaires, you know?
That Elon has. I mean, this guy is one of the most morally vacant, but also just least knowledgeable about these systems that we really know of. But the point is that what that means is that they're going to hit a button inevitably. They are going to hit a button and things can go sideways. We already saw that last week when they were like, oh yeah, we're going to freeze everything. That sounds so cool. Let's do that. They hit the freeze button and...
Yeah, almost like it's an initiative run by a bunch of excited teenagers who don't really know what they're doing with one of the most complicated pieces of hardware, software in American history and possibly the world. Haha.
Medicaid portals across the United States got suspended through that EO. and they tried to make up for it.
Yeah, like when you put it on paper and it's like you're willing to like sell out your country for $1,000 per year, and like unironically a lot of Republicans just think that that $1,000 per year is enough to like set them up for life. You know, like they believe that that's what's gonna make the difference, you know? Like they'd be living high on the hog if they didn't have to pay that $1,000 a year. John Bogardus barely even left.
It has nothing to do with all of it. Really, you're gonna freeze all federal programs and then the Medicaid portal suspended, and you think people are gonna think that's not connected? I mean, I know they think people are stupid, but it's like genuinely just be so for real right now. Anyways, so what they're trying to do is that under the guise of waste, they are going to try to cut and gut some of the most essential federal programs that we've got. In fact, how do we know this? Because the Republican majority and their budget had a sensitive internal document that got leaked a couple of weeks ago. And I can tell you that I read through it. And they identified bit by bit everything from the mortgage interest tax deduction to, which I raised a couple of weeks ago, to Medicaid itself. They have identified as wanting to eliminate in order to pay for Elon Musk's tax breaks, Jeff Bezos's tax breaks, Mark Zuckerberg's tax breaks, and other giveaways and other sorts of giveaways to the wealthiest people and corporations in this country. And the biggest one, lock in everybody, okay?
Yep.
The biggest one that they are going after is Medicaid.
Yep.
Okay? They
makes sense. They seemingly targeted it first the other day with the OMB memo. There's a reason why Medicaid went down first. And yeah, they want to get rid of disabled people. I think that's pretty clear. Like they're willing to sacrifice disabled people in order to give these tax cuts to billionaires. They are going to come after that. But this should not be shocking, right? We knew that they were always going to take aim at Medicaid. We knew that they were going to take aim at Social Security, at all these things that people rely upon to live. This is not surprising. It is shocking in the current context for sure, but it is not surprising. So remember to breathe. And let's continue. Lock in, folks.
In their sights, and they want to cut $2 trillion. Remember? They need to find $4 trillion. And they've got like, maybe this is $4 trillion. They maybe have like one knuckle in tax increases in terms of paying for that. They maybe have like one knuckle in tax increases on middle class and low income
Ram Ranch
people
survivor.
who's just not going to get that money for it. And they do not have, I mean, you can cut every wasteful practice and you're not going to get close. Because by the way, what are they not going to include in their government waste assessments? Take a big guess. Defense spending.
Yep.
One of the biggest areas of federal expenditure and waste that we see. I sat on the oversight committee, y'all. I have seen defense contractors price gouge and loot the public in such inordinate ways. And you all can tell me, service members who are tuned in right now, you all see it all the time. Like the how a lot of things don't add up because it's defense contractors who are making a killing. And just so you know, when you see these big tech people, many of them are also defense contractors.
This is a really important point to hammer home because they genuinely don't want you to know that. You know, Amazon doesn't want you to associate them as a defense contractor. Elon Musk doesn't want you to associate SpaceX with anything other than doing cool Mars shit. But they're also a defense contractor. You know, a lot of these big companies, Microsoft, all the AI shit, have huge lucrative contracts from the Pentagon. Ram Ranch Survivor, I do like hate speech laws. Wish we could have him here.
Gets his money from defense. SpaceX, they put all these slick branding on it, and they like to brand themselves as tech and as like all of this other stuff. But a lot of them get their money through defense contracts. You hear me? And so when they talk about waste, in one of the areas where there is evidence for some of the largest amount of federal waste, because mind you, the Pentagon has not passed an audit. The Pentagon fails their audit all the time and has yet to pass an audit. But this is where they're getting their bread buttered. So they want you to think that it's the viejita who's getting Medicaid, who's getting her insulin paid for on Medicaid, that is the waste, because what they don't want you to do is to look at US defense spending, particularly defense contractors, and even in that under area of defense contractors, their defense contracts. Microsoft, Amazon, a lot of these AI initiatives, defense contracts, which by the way should not be legal. And we saw this. We saw some of the early use of AI being used in war, which in a way should absolutely be illegal. Robots make mistakes, and if you accidentally bomb a building or just bomb a building indiscriminately without proper human oversight, which by the way, we saw initially tested on Palestinians in Gaza, but that's not going to stop there. If you allow that to continue, it can continue.
You know, I love how she's drawing this all together and still finding time to be able to like explain, hey, yeah, actually AI used in warfare is something we should outlaw because it's horrific and we need humans to be accountable for human actions. You know, you can't hold an AI accountable in any real sense, you know? Like, I like that she's able to kind of like go slightly off the beaten path and then bring it back home. You know, it's very refreshing. And I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is what leadership looks like. This is what leadership looks like. This is what a real political leader should be. You know, someone who can like get on social media, meet people where they're at, give them a fireside chat to like tell them, hey, this is what the state of things, this is why things are happening, here's what we're gonna do about it. You know?
Is what they don't want you to look at is their defense contracts. Also, Amazon, Microsoft, their integrations with ICE and immigration as well. I'm going to get to these things, but we have to lay out the full landscape, okay? So if we want to know what the motivation is, why this is happening, understand that it is deeply tied to the deadline that billionaires and the rich are confronting right now this year in 2025. And what they want to do is suspend the actual assistance that you receive, whether it is through education, whether it's through healthcare, etc., They want to
She's
suspend
better than
that
Jerry
and
Connolly
gut
for
that
sure.
in order to finance their own public looting and public coffers. Okay? So when you see these plane crashes, when you see the disruptions with air traffic controllers and things like this, or when you see all this stuff that's happening at the FAA, understand again, that happened, like this happened, and what happened, the FAA administrator was on leave. He had retired. Why? Because he had challenged SpaceX and wanted to find SpaceX. So understand, when you see all of this stuff happening, it's not all random overwhelm. It's about the money. Immigration, these massive expansions on immigration.
It's about the money. It all keeps coming back to that, you know? Like, it's nice seeing someone connect the dots here, you know? Because, like, on some level, we all know it's about the money, but oftentimes the way the money is actually implicated seems nebulous at best.
I want you to believe that they're only going after criminals. They're going after everybody. They even arrested Puerto Ricans. They're going after everybody.
Yep.
And understand that this is how indiscriminate they are being. And they are doing this because also, you know who finances a lot of Republican campaigns? The private prison industry. They know that they actually can't deport all of these people at once in one go. And what do when you grab someone off the street but you can't deport them for a long time? You build private prison camps. And this is we already saw them start to do that. And this is, especially with passage of certain legislation, this is what it's set to do. Okay? So understand the central motivations here. This is about preying on working class people and stoking racial division so that working people turn against one another in order to vacuum and suck up what little is left of American public infrastructure and life and hand it over to Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and all these corporations, etc. Okay? It's important to lay that out. Now, what do we do? Okay? What do we do about it? There are just like, okay? I know y'all are I can already hear, but just lock in for a second. Just like these problems can seem comprehensive and also overwhelming and complex, understand that we outnumber them.
Yep.
We outnumber them, okay? The people outnumber the 1%.
They got money, we got people, and you know what? Let's pile up all their money and we'll we'll gather all of our people and we'll have a fight. Our people versus their money. I think I know who might win in that conflict.
People, and it's not just about 1% and 99, it's not just about that too. Also, everyday people of all sorts of income brackets also overwhelm the number of the corrupt, okay? Understand our strategic advantages in this moment. We outnumber them. Do not forget that. We outnumber them so dramatically that they have to try to control media and communication channels and apps, etc., because they want to and need to invoke docility, passivity in the masses in order for them to get away with what they're doing. Even before this most recent movie season, I would always make the comparison to The Wizard of Oz. But so it's not just a Wicked thing, okay?
She's got such riz. Like, AOC's vibes are so good. But yeah, no, this is a battle where we absolutely can and will win. We have the people power, and our enemies are moronic Habsburgian monstrosities. You know, like, their only asset, it's not their brains, it's not their, wonderful, overwhelming charisma. It's that they happen to have a lot of money. And that is not actually that powerful if you don't have people on your side. You know? Once we mobilize en masse, we can do anything. Anything. It's urban versus rural. Even the elite/aristocrats used to live in the countryside. How does where people used to live at all explain the situation now? Most billionaires and millionaires are living in cities, not in the middle of nowhere.
That authoritarians are kind of like the wizard in The Wizard of Oz. They rely not on their actual power. They rely on their perceived power. So, principle number one in what you can do is that when one of these things comes to your backyard, when it actually, like when it comes to you, and I will give examples, but when it comes to you, when it does, you can resist. And what that happens.
Yeah, because the thing that's coming to your door and coming to your backyard is a paper tiger. It looks really scary, but it's just paper mache. You know, like, if you resist it, it will crumble.
Millions of people is that you generate enough friction that they cannot go as fast as they want to go, okay? So I'm going to give you some examples.
This is also very important because of one of the things I've been talking about, is that Donald Trump does not have time. You know, time for the Republicans is incredibly precious, and they are rapidly running out of it. By like a year from now, guys, a year and like 2 months from now, people are going to be all about the midterm election. They are going to be full on locked in on the midterm elections. And there's not going to be that much done right before the midterm elections because Republicans don't want to rock the boat for their candidates because they know they're in a real bad spot for the midterms. Right now, things are kind of set up for it to be a slaughter for the Democrats. So we'll have to see, but like, Donald Trump and his billionaire benefactors have a very limited amount of time, and the longer you can make them take, the better off we all are. You know, like, the fewer things they can ruin, the less evil they can do. Okay?
Been working. Let's start with immigration and ICE. When people say, what can we do? You can do the things that apply to you. In my community, we are a heavily immigrant community. And so ICE raids deeply affect and disrupt our community. And the prospect of ICE raids deeply disrupt and threaten our community. So
yeah, let me put it this way. I know people are really off the rails right now when it comes to like what the possibilities are, but I can assure you the midterms are going to happen. There is no mechanism or possible way, barring like actual armed revolution, that they are able to do away with the midterms.
Number one, if you live in a community with a lot of immigrants, know your rights.
Yep.
That's one tangible thing you can do that I want you to do. And I'm going to go through what that means. And that means know your rights if you are a US citizen as well. Okay? Here's one way that we're going to create some friction in this system, okay?
Guys, I know, look, some of you are coming in a little bit late, so you haven't locked in on the conversation yet. We're getting to more actionable sections. The money doesn't have the military, guys. If the money had the military, they wouldn't be fucking around with the US Treasury system. Guys, if they break that, it fucks over every single soldier. It fucks over every single working person in America. The things they are fucking with directly impact the people whose support they would need in order to do the thing like get rid of midterms. You know? Like, the tariffs are fucking over the people they need to win or do away with the midterms. Why won't they just make cutout for things they like? See, Commander Mike TV, that was my assumption. My assumption was Donald Trump was going to make cutouts for all of his rich buddies for the tariffs. He's not doing that. He has been asked it point blank multiple times at multiple different points throughout all of this. And they are blanket tariffs. There are no exceptions. The tariff with China already gone through. No exceptions. So it is that's kind of a big thing, right? And if you're only going to pay like loyal soldiers, I think there's a big problem with that. Because our soldiers are not simply loyal to whoever pays them, though that does play a role. They have been indoctrinated through their entire training process to be loyal to the Constitution, and I don't think they are going to view the guy who's doing away with elections as a guy who's following the Constitution. You know, it's just a feeling I got in my gut, you know? But let's keep going.
Who's directing a lot of these ICE operations nationally, etc. He went on TV practically crying. This dude was whining his ass off because ICE went into the city of Chicago and Chicago had prepared for them. Community organizers, activists, and their mayor and local elected officials who were...
Well, again, YZ, that's why the knowledge that what they are actually trying to do, what Donald Trump and all of his rich cronies are trying to do, is to find money to pay for the massive tax cuts that they want to do. That's why it makes so much more sense that they're blanket tariffs. Because the point in Trump's mind isn't to target anything, because as we all know, the only reason you really do a tariff is so that you can kind of play protectionist with your industry. Like, you know, there's a solar panel industry in Canada, and so we throw tariffs on Canadian solar panels so we can build up our industry here in America to build our own solar panels. That's the reason you do tariffs in a normal way. Right? Donald Trump doesn't understand how tariffs work. And so Donald Trump thinks it's a tax that you put on other countries. That, you know, Canada pays the tax on pays the tariff on importing the solar panels in that example. Except that that's not true. Canada doesn't pay that. The importer in the US pays that. We pay that, right? He thinks it's a way to raise revenue. That's why there are no exceptions. Our enemies are stupid. And if you've been thinking they're not that stupid, you're wrong. They are incredibly stupid. They may be the stupidest people currently in existence on the planet. So, like, they don't got great grand master plans here. I can't believe he really thinks that. It's just too stupid even for him. Guys, last week he opened up 2 dams and sent a flood level amount of water careening down into a valley full of his own constituents during their wet season, so the water all got wasted and almost killed people. And the reason he did it was because he believes that the LA wildfires were caused by federal dams holding too much water back. Ignore the fact that the dams he released water from flowed away from LA. They were on the other side of mountains. This is the level he's operating on, guys. He's old and sundowning. He was never a smart man, but he's gotten dumber. Also, hello, Lucy Hayes. Thank you very much for the raid.
They educated the city on their legal rights. Because what ICE tries to do is that they rely on people not knowing their rights in order to enter buildings, in order to search workplaces, etc. So when you know your rights, you are able to tell them no, and they do walk away. So you need to know your rights. If ICE comes to you as an American citizen, still assert your rights. Because what you can do...
Treat ICE officers like you would fae folk in folkloric stories, okay? Make sure you've put out like a bowl of soured milk for them to drink, and like know the rules of interacting with them so that you can, by arcane ritual, emerge unscathed.
Is protect people around you, and also make sure that you are slowing down this system. The slower they operate, the less they can break. You hear me? This is why this is strategically important. The slower they operate, the less they can break. And so, know your rights.
Exactly.
If ICE comes to your workplace, if ICE comes to your door, you do not have to open the door. You ask them for a judicial warrant, not an administrative warrant. ICE very often tries to show you some official looking paper in order to intimidate people and to let them in. Again, remember, they rely on the perception of power. No. You don't just get some paper and let them in. You look for a judicial warrant. You look for a judge's signature on that piece of paper. If there is not a judge's signature on that piece of paper, you do not have to open the door. Number 2, you can ask them to leave. If they do not procure a warrant, you can ask them to leave. You can stay silent. If they have detained you, you can say, I would like to remain silent. You invoke your right. You do not have to share personal information. They want to know what your immigration status is. Even if you're a U.S. citizen, if they want to ask you, are you a U.S. citizen? You tell them, I don't have to answer that question. You tell them, I do not have to answer that question. You do not have to. They ask you where you were born. I don't have to answer that question. They ask for your immigration status. I do not have to answer your question. They do not, unless you are being officially detained.
Yeah, honestly, great time to get the names and numbers of lawyers that you may need to call upon should shit hit the fan, you know? If you are undocumented, make sure you have like an immigration attorney, make sure, you know, your family's got one. If you haven't considered this, make sure you got them on speed dial.
Judicial warrant. And by the way, you do not have to sign anything. And if they want to keep asking you questions, you say, I would like to speak to my attorney. In New York and California, you have a right to an attorney, including if you are undocumented or anything. You would say, I would like an attorney. Or if you are outside of the states of New York or California, you can say, I would like to speak to an attorney. And you can get your own attorney. So, or you can procure your own attorney. So you say, I want to talk to a lawyer. Know your rights. Use them if you are a citizen.
Though I will say, mildly muscular MILF, I wouldn't necessarily do that if you are of a complexion that ICE is going to assume you are a non-citizen. You know, like if you are, for example, an alabaster disaster like myself, absolutely waste ICE's time and resources as much as humanly possible. But if you look vaguely Latino, Latina, maybe don't attempt to do that, because they have and are likely going to continue to try to deport actual US citizens from the United States. So, just signing off on that, but like, make sure you're in a safe position to do that. Every day is Shut the Fuck Up Friday. True!
Citizen, green card holder, whatever it may be. And also, one simple thing you can do is share your rights. Share Know Your Rights information. How do you do that? Two things. You can go to my Rep AOC account if you want, and there's a slide with Know Your Rights. If you want to go grassroots style, you can use mine. They're ACLU, a bunch of people have them.
Kevin FM, so
out,
true.
Hand them out. Hand them out to people. Or if you sign, again, this is like not a plug. You can Google this in lots.
Yeah, the ICE Fae are the worst kind.
But one thing that we're presently working on is that if you're on my newsletter or if you sign on to my newsletter, we are working on printable PDFs that we're going to soon email out to our whole newsletter list.
Emerald Arcane, I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen when it comes to tax returns. Couldn't tell you. With Elon Musk's guys having admin access over the Treasury payment system, that is a huge escalation. One of the cold comforts is that there is currently a court order enjoining them and preventing them from actually turning off funding to various organizations. Remains to be seen if they're going to do it anyway. So that is a whole can of worms, but we'll deal with it when we can. I think we're going to get to more actionable stuff from AOC in a bit here.
Print it out. You can tape it up in storefronts. You can drop palm cards in small businesses. If you are local to New York City, we are going to be having kind of volunteer events where we're going to go bodega by bodega, drop in palm cards so that people can know their rights. And the slower they go, the less they can break. Okay? That's one example. Number two, in some of these federal purges, with what they're trying to do, they want to send you a little letter saying, "Oh, we're going to offer you a buyout. Don't take it. Don't take it. Don't take the buyout." You have about 3 days, like all those federal workers that got that got those notices, and of course, you know, these decisions are
so far. Apache 2895, like, I haven't heard any stories about tax returns not showing up. So it's a hypothetical worry at this point.
The decisions are ultimately up to you. But my opinion is that this is a bunch of BS. And what they want everyone to do is to comply in advance. Do not comply in advance. Make them make you. Make them make you.
Yeah, no, the buyout does not actually mean that, like, you get to quit and then you just get 8 months of pay. It means you have to keep working for 8 months. They give you the gift of guaranteed employment for 8 months plus benefits, which you would get by just working there for 8 months anyway. And then you could continue to work there. You know, like, it is an illegal offer, and it's dog shit too. Like, if they fire you, they have to give you like a severance package. You know, make them fire you.
Make them, if they're committing crimes, make them make you, because we are going to win. I want you to understand right now, we're going to go through an ugly period, but move in the faith that we are going to win. Okay? It is, nobody knows what is going to happen between now and then, but winning and prevailing is a decision. It is a choice. It's not, oh, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen. It's, what am I going to dedicate myself to? And so it can be actions small, it can be actions large. I'm giving you a small action, a tiny action. If you are exhausted and you don't have any energy at all, the one thing I want you to do is to look up your rights, for you to know your rights in case ICE shows up to your workplace. Just Google it, understand it, practice it, go on Rep AOC. If you have no energy at all, just do that. Just Google your rights.
Memorize your rights. Get them locked into your noggin so you know exactly what cops can and can't do. Okay? Exactly what ICE agents can and can't do. All right? Now, I would also say, if you do memorize them, share that information with other people. You know? Make sure everyone in your workplace knows. Make sure everyone in your building knows.
You've got some energy. If you're itching to mobilize and you're in a community like mine, pick up some palm cards or print out some stuff on your own and take it to a local bodega and say, hey, can I post this up? Okay?
Excellent idea.
That's level 2, right? There are actions you could take at every level. If you want to do even more, there are community organizations that you can engage in. We need to be little grains of sand in the large gears of this machine. And so please do not fall for the illusion or the lie that any action is too small. There is no action too small. In fact, because there are so many of us, when millions of people...
What time is it here? It is about 8:30 in the morning.
Tiny things, we can disrupt these systems, okay? So those are 2 key things. Now, let's level up. Let's zoom out a little bit in terms of what else we can do. Well, Donald Trump did something very interesting. In order for us to understand the political landscape, Republicans didn't just win the White House, as we know. Republicans also won majorities in the Senate and majorities in the House. And what is happening right now is that Republicans are rolling over. You know, people are saying, where's Congress? Where's Congress? Congress, I'll get to Democrats in another section here. But Congress itself, the reason Congress as an institution is not doing anything is because Republicans hold the keys to both the House and the Senate. So if the House is going to do something, you need the Republican speaker to make the choice to do it. The Senate, if the Senate is going to do something, the Senate has a Republican majority that holds the keys to that as well. So there are 2 strategies that we have in terms of the Senate and in terms of the House. I'm going to start with the House. The House has 435 members, but the Republicans won the majority, but that majority is very, very slim right now. I think it's about 4. I believe it's a majority of about 4. Even with 4 Republicans making the difference between a Democratic House and a Republican majority House, Donald Trump still decided to appoint several of them to his administration.
Which is not something you would do if you were competent. It is not something you would do if you were a smart man. You would not erode your already thin majority and whittle it down to 2 seats for no reason.
Dramatically reduced temporarily the Republican majority, the voting majority in the House. Those people that he appointed are tried to appoint Matt Gaetz, but Matt Gaetz resigned when he was named, when Donald Trump was going to appoint him, and then the Senate blocked it. But still, there's a vacancy in Matt Gaetz' seat. There's a vacancy in Representative Waltz's seat.
Morning, Zennies.
And there's a vacancy here in New York with Elise Stefanik's seat.
This is maybe one of the most interesting parts of her video, by the way, of this update. And I personally appreciate her getting into the nitty-gritty here because it makes me excited. It makes me feel like, oh shit, there's work we can do here, folks. There's work we can do.
Those seats, Waltz and Gaetz, are in the state of Florida. And they are strolling their way to a special election. Now, that special election, I believe, is happening on April 1st in the state of Florida. We need to have a show of elevated numbers. We should have a show of elevated numbers in those 2 special elections. Now, people are going to say, oh, she's sending you on a wild goose chase. These are strongly Republican districts, but Washington and decision makers often look at the margins of these results to try to glean how people are feeling in this time. And first and foremost, the level of breakneck speed and not just speed, the level of just breaking that this administration and that Elon Musk is doing right now does have the power to transcend party. It does have the power to transcend party. And if a historically 30 plus Republican seat, if a seat that normally goes to Republicans by 20 points or 30 points, then goes to Republican, even if they still win, but if it goes down to 10 points, they know that they are in deep trouble. And why does that matter? Because a lot of these people only respond to one thing, which is whether they can hold on to power or not. And one of the reasons we're in this situation is because a lot of Republicans were more afraid of a primary election, losing a primary election, than they were in actually advocating for their people. And if you want evidence for that, just know that these Medicaid cuts that they're going for are actually going to affect rural Americans some of the most. Some of the places that vote the reddest stand to be hurt the most by what Republicans are trying to do.
Yeah, again, not something that you would do if you were a competent fascist. The people we are fighting against are stupid as shit. And that is maybe a cold comfort, but also it generally means that they aren't that good at wielding power, which only benefits us, really.
Understand, we're talking about rural hospital closures, we're talking about all sorts of infrastructure, any of the basic services that a lot of rural communities who are already underserved, all these communities that are already underserved. So I'm not saying that getting in the game with these is going 100% to change the outcome. But it may, because we are in an unprecedented time.
AOC is calling it an unprecedented time. I have called it by its true name. The cool zone. We're in the cool zone, folks, where anything is possible. And yes, horrors beyond our comprehension are very possible. But so are good things. Good things are also possible in the cool zone, like flipping a Florida congressional seat. That is in the cool zone, and that would indeed be very cool.
Unprecedented time can mean, of course, many bad things happen, but it can also mean that unpredictable things can happen, and unpredictable things can often go our way. I was elected in the first Trump administration, and nobody ever thought that I had a prayer in order to win. I was a waitress. I was challenging the head of a political machine who was supposed to be the next Speaker of the House. They spent 3
She beat Joe Crowley's ass. She's downplaying her own achievement. She beat his ass. One of the highest ranking Democrats came out of nowhere like a wrecking ball and destroyed his entire political machine because he was a shit lib and she was a progressive.
Against me while I was wiping down tables. And we won. Why? Because an unpredictable window has opened. Do not...
I saw a tweet once that read it was the fuck aroundiest of times. It was the found outiest of times. Is a very whimsical phrase. I love it.
Fly in advance. You try anyway. We try, and they want to flood the zone. We can flood the zone with people. So those April 1st special elections, you can take a look at those. But importantly, in New York, a Elise Stefanik seat is open. And, those Florida seats, we can start mobilizing there. We'll start exercising our organizing muscle there.
Also, just as a quick note, I know a lot of people are like, Florida seats, they're a foregone conclusion. They're obviously going to go Republican, and that's generally useful conventional wisdom. But I am just going to throw out there that between now and those special elections, there are currently a lot of people fucking around in the federal government. A lot of Republican people. And they are, the tariffs are 30 days away. And that is still, several weeks away from the special elections for the Florida seats. That's a lot of time for Republicans to ruin their chances of filling those seats with a Republican. So that is an interesting point of hope. If they are going to fuck around like this, there is a potential pretty significant congressional cost to that. And that's interesting to think about. Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership over on YouTube. I appreciate it. And also worth noting is that there is a not insignificant leftist organizing apparatus that has been slowly growing in Florida. There is a grassroots movement. I've been paying a moderate amount of attention to it, and it's pretty impressive. Yeah, Anna V. Escamani is one of the people I've been keeping an eye on for a while now, and worth keeping her on your radar, folks. She's been doing some pretty cool things over in Florida, and has she won her House race in the state legislature, and leftists active in Florida doing some real interesting maneuvers. This might not be the time that Florida seats flip, but I can see a time that is not that far away where folks like Anna Escamani make, the Democrats viable in Florida again. Just something to keep in mind. Hey, Samara says.
build the larger infrastructure and power that we need. At least in advance. You try anyway. We try, and they want to flood the zone, we can flood the zone with people. So those April 1st special elections, you can take a look at those. But importantly, in New York, Elise Stefanik's seat is open.
And that right there made me gasp while I was running, and not because I was out of breath. Because honestly, if we're in the cool zone, a zone that makes Florida seats potentially winnable, maybe, in a way no one could possibly see coming, then Elise Stefanik's seat in New York, that one we could win. And maybe that'll be one of the things I bend this community towards as that election gets closer. Because there's genuinely a shot that we could fill that seat with a Democrat, which would then mean that even were all of those seats filled, they would only have a 3-member majority in the House. And that would be pretty good. That would be a major improvement over a 4-seat lead in the House.
And, those Florida seats, we can start mobilizing there. We'll start exercising our organizing muscle there. But we're doing that in order to build the larger infrastructure and power that we need. Elise Stefanik's seat is going to be open, and there's going to be more time.
Yeah, Ember Brains, my guess is that they are going to try to mess with Medicaid whenever the budget comes up. And I do think that that is going to be a major fight between Democrats and Republicans. I think that they will take a stand against the blatant looting of Medicaid. I know that currently there are, relatively liberal Dems who are kicking around the idea of simply not going and refusing to vote on the budget because Republicans need Democratic votes in order to pass that budget. So, it could turn into a pretty big game of chicken over it, frankly. And honestly, the way things are going right now, Democrats might be willing to just be like, yeah, shut the government down. Until you stop wanting to cut Medicaid, shut the government down.
That special election is not happening on April 1st. And so what that means is that New Yorkers, we can focus on the special election for Elise Stefanik's seat. And we can go for it, okay? We can go for it. We need to try. I'm talking about this time is crazy. We need to jiggle every damn door handle in this place to see what opens up. I don't want to hear, oh, we can't do that. Oh, that's impossible. That's called consenting in advance. So when your mind says it's all over, like we might as well, no. You are consenting in advance.
Don't do that. It's one of the reasons why I'm like, hey, chat, don't doomer, because doomering is just admitting defeat. You're just saying, oh, well, we can't possibly make a difference, so I'm not even going to try. And then you don't try, and they win. That's how that works. You consented to their rule in advance.
Consent in advance. Do not be discouraged in temporary defeats. We keep going anyway. Do it anyway. When we are relentless, they will fatigue. They will fatigue. They can only hold this up for so long.
Jack, you're not screaming aimlessly into the void. Just join the Labour Party, equal stems in Australia. Don't like 'em, but I'm gunning for change, raised fist.
Hell yeah, Patrick Lucas. Love to see it. Thank you for getting involved in your local politics. Let's go! And thank you for being a member for the past 7 months. I really appreciate the support.
Draw them out. Draw them out, okay?
Yeah, draw them out. Like, you know, the King of Gondor at the end of Return of the King. You know, like Aragorn, son of Arathorn. Draw them out. Draw them all out.
So we can mobilize electorally, we can mobilize in community organizing, whatever your calling is.
Because also, folks, when you draw them out, they do not have the people to fight on all of those different fronts at one time. They don't have the people. We do. We can fight on a myriad, on a plethora of different fronts that they are incapable of meeting us on.
People don't like electoral organizing. Then I want you to be running a Know Your Rights training. Or I want you to be sending out palm cards. Or I want you to be Googling your own rights, depending on your energy level. But electorally, we need to go get them, okay? These special elections are opportunities. And I'm not just talking about federally. It is time for us to kick up state legislatures, okay? Iowa just had a special election. That district was supposed to be Republican plus 20-something, and they lost it. They lost it. This was supposed to be a community. It went 20 or 30, it went double digits to Trump. They lost the special. Do not say things are impossible in this time, okay? We jiggle in this house, we jiggle every door handle to find an opportunity.
Because we're in the cool zone, baby. In the cool zone, you look at every opportunity that comes your way.
100 times sometimes to make one work, it's worth it. It's worth it. All right?
Do I have to go out and do stuff? Yes, you have to go out and do stuff. Or at the very least, if you're going to be online at home, you still got to do stuff. You got to do stuff just online. You know, things like attending meetings for your local DSA, you know, making online training tools so that undocumented folks and documented folks both know their rights should ICE show up. You know, do different projects, you know. Make sure you're not just posting on Twitter. Make sure you're doing something a bit more proactive with preferably a group of people.
That's one. Now, what are Democrats do? So those are some things on what you can do. Now, let's talk about what are Democrats doing. Democrats.
Exactly. You got to do a little bit more than raise awareness. You got to make sure people have the tools they need to frustrate frustrate the agents of the enemy. You got to make sure people know and have access to the information on how to interact with these fey creatures, these curses upon our existence. You know, you got to unionize your local workplaces. You got to get involved with your local political groups. You got to be active. And we got to support each other.
As many of you know, my relationship with the Democratic Party is, let's call it an interesting one, right? I came in, for people who may not know, I came into office not just by beating a Republican. I came into office by taking on the Democratic establishment and taking on a very entrenched political machine in New York City, and defeated a lot of that in order to get elected to office. And so I say this because I am an elected Democrat in Congress, but also I have I think sometimes a certain independent or little bit of a removed perspective in order between examining how the party is operating and also my direct relationship to the people. And so I've always kind of had this like in the middle type of relationship, and it's always awkward, right? Like, I'm an elected official, so everyday people, it's a different kind of relationship, but also I'm also viewed with skepticism sometimes within my own party, or sometimes historically even hostility from my own party. But at the end of the day, that's like, I'm here, and also on top of that, I don't accept any lobbyist money. I am financed like by everyday people, and the average donation to my campaign is like $16, $20, depending on the day. And so that also means that I am not as attached to lobbyist influence, and also just kind of like the traditional ways that Washington works. I say all of this because I want you to know that when I'm about to talk to you about what Democrats are doing right now, and what we are doing, what we may not be doing, it's done with that perspective in mind, which is that I'm capable of stepping out of the party and looking at it because of both how I got here and the fact that I rely on the support of everyday people. But also, it's also, though, in my communications with you all, I do have a level of insight where I can share with you what I see going on. And so there's two sides to this coin. So I want to let you know what Democrats can be doing right now, and what we're starting to see some mobility on. So point number one, a lot of people say, where are Democrats right now? I don't know where Democrats are right now.
That's fair. I've been saying the same thing. Where are the Democrats? Why aren't they being more active on this issue?
Like, two things can be true at the same time, right? Number one, I want you to know the timing with which they did this. One of the reasons why you see, I think, either a delayed response or why it's harder to see where Democrats are right now is because Donald Trump waited until Congress adjourned session in order to start this, for lack of a better word, shit show.
And this is when I realized that I should have this entire time been aware that Congress has not been in session, and that all of the Congress people in the House and the Senate have gone back to their local constituents to, talk with them and see what is going on there, what they care about. It's literally part of their job to go back home, talk with folks, get a feel for where things are at, and then go back to Washington, D.C. to represent them again. Exactly, mildly muscular MILF. So many people had no idea. Democrats only got back into Washington, D.C. like yesterday. That's why yesterday was the first day that they showed up to USAID, and they did that press conference. But they were not physically in Washington, D.C. until yesterday. So, a lot of folks have been like, where are the Democrats? Myself included. Where are the Democrats? And it's like they've been busy doing their jobs in with their local constituents. And Donald Trump and his cronies planned it this way so that they could effectively flood the zone without pushback from people in Washington who had, media cameras, etc. around them 24/7. Very helpful to know.
And so literally what happened is that Congress is in session for votes, and then they adjourn session in order to go back to their communities, do town halls, do tours and stuff like that. So it was almost like on the clock when Congress was adjourned and everyone got on planes to go to their districts and their communities across the country. that's when they started hitting the shit show and all this stuff. So when people are like, why aren't we in the buildings in Washington, D.C.? I like, your member of Congress is in your district, right? That is changing tomorrow. Tomorrow,
that is now today. Today is the first day that they're actually back in session in Congress. So we're going to see a lot more action from them today and throughout the rest of this week. No, Jess, I did not go to sleep. I went and ran 7.5 miles, showered, and started streaming again because I watched this while I was exercising, and it was so good and had such a nicely structured set of information that I wanted to share it with all of you because it made so many more things make sense about what is happening right now, and it made me feel a lot better. And I wanted to share that with you guys as soon as possible because I know a lot of you are like killing yourselves with stress, and I want to help you alleviate that and give you actionable items that you can also do. Wait, what day is it? It
is going back into session, and you should be seeing a lot more activity.
Are you even tired? I am extremely tired, but also anxiety makes it hard for me to sleep. When that happens, sometimes I just go and run. Run off the anxiety, but then I got access to good information, and that energized me to do this. So here we are.
And I would anticipate you're going to see a lot more activity.
Redland Thought, thanks for the raid.
At least in terms of the House. The Senate sometimes has a different schedule, but the House has the vast majority of people. So I would anticipate seeing more of that kind of activity. Now, in terms of substantive things that we can do, the Trump administration is currently trying to get their nominees approved and voted on. No Democrat should be voting to advance Trump's nominees while all of this stuff is going on. There has to be a political price to pay, and we have a responsibility as a party to block everything that is happening while they're setting a literal match to the federal government and giving 19-year-olds classified access, potentially classified access to the U.S. Treasury Department. So we need to start blocking every single procedural advancement on the Senate side in order to do that. And
I'm not gonna lie, hearing an actual sitting member of Congress acknowledge that this is something that they need to do and acknowledge the scope and breadth of this problem really helps me to feel a lot better. Really helps me to feel like we are less kind of on our own than we've been assuming the past several days. Especially as things have escalated. Like, this is leadership, folks. This is what leadership looks like in politics.
Need to be a pain in the ass. And a lot of times, Democrats in the Senate, in the name of ceremony and fake history, in the case of the filibuster, it's fake history that many of them cite, and what have you, like gentlemen's agreements. The Senate loves their gentlemen's agreements, which is to say it's not like rule breaking, but it's just like these kind of handshake practices that they have. We have to stop playing nice in the Senate and block every damn thing that we can.
Let's go.
Do not give votes to the nominees. And by the way,
we gotta be leftist Mitch McConnell. Let's go.
To look, do not assume that your senator is not going to vote for these nominees.
Hey, remember how we covered the indivisible call to action the other day? Remember how we covered that literally like 6 or 7 hours ago? Remember that? Remember how it gave you a bunch of instructions on how to reach out and interact and create events in your local area to interface with, your local your local elected officials. Huh? Remember that, folks? Remember that? Because I remember it. That's right. It's actually right here. I still have it on my screen because I haven't gone to bed yet. It's still here. Haha! Checkmate, atheists. I'm going to link it in chat now because it basically gives you a bunch of really handy instructions on how to organize events to pressure your local congressional folks in person, preferably with talking points, with instructions on like how to be safe, how to do it respectfully, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a useful tool. Get several people together and make it happen, because there are going to be Democrats who are feckless, who are spineless, and need people knocking on their door saying, "Hey, we want you to have a spine," constantly, day after day, for them to actually grow one. So, like AOC is saying, do not assume that because you have a Democratic representative, a Democratic senator, etc., that they are going to vote in lockstep with the priorities of the, more progressive wing of the party, right? You gotta make them do that shit. Who wrote this? This was put together by the group Indivisible Working Families Party and Move On. It's a multi-pronged thing, and they collaborated on it. Anyway, moving right along. There we go.
Like these kind of handshake practices. There has to be a political price to pay, and we have a responsibility as a party to block everything that is happening while they're setting a literal match to the federal government and giving 19-year-olds classified access, potentially
No checkmark game. Stop being a deeply unserious person in my chat. I would appreciate it. I want democracy in the workplace. I want workers to own the means of production, but like you're being silly about it.
The U.S. Treasury Department. So we need to start blocking.
I'm based out of the Midwest, Roxanne Epstein.
Procedural advancement on the Senate side in order to do that. And we need to be a pain in the ass. And a lot of times
95% of activism is just organized bullying of politicians, okay? And you can organize and bully politicians from DSA, from the Working Families Party, or from, your local anarchy groups, okay? Like, do it with whatever group you can, but make sure it's effective. I want your activism to actually have results as opposed to just make you feel good. That's my priority. If you can't tabulate results and all your activism did was make you feel like you did a good thing, I don't give a shit. It is not impressive to me.
That's in the Senate in the name of ceremony and fake history. In the case of the filibuster, it's fake history that many of them cite, and what have you.
And again, just to reiterate my priorities here is that I think that you should just grab 5 to 10 friends from DSA or some equivalent group, join your local Democrats and radicalize their politics. Effectively take them over. Become political pirates, all right? Because that's the coolest thing to do. It's pretty neat. It's pretty fun. And also, have you ever been to your local Democratic meetings, chat? 99% of the people there are over 800 years old and are just desperate to see anyone under the age of 60 that they can give authority and power to. Literally, the last one I went to, they asked everyone at the meeting, does anyone want to be the chair of the local Democrats? Because I'd really like to mentor someone to be the chair of the party here. Haha, please take it from me. taking over the political party of the Democrats is really easy, guys. We should be doing that. But so many people are just find it anathema to sit through a goddamn meeting. It's frustrating as hell.
Gentlemen's agreements. The Senate loves their gentlemen's agreements, which is to say it's not like rule breaking, but it's just like these kind of handshake practices that they have. We have to stop playing nice in the Senate and block every damn thing that we can. Do not give votes to the nominees. And by the way, I want you to look. Do not assume that your senator is not going to vote for these nominees. If you are a Democrat, or if you are a person rather that has a Democratic senator, give them a call and tell them, I do not want you to vote to advance or approve any of these nominees while all this stuff is going on. Please tell them. Do not assume that just because you have a Democratic senator, they're going to, that they're just going to vote no. Trust me. You can look up any of these votes recently. Even at the Defense Department, the nominee Hesketh, you should even see some of this questioning from people coming forward about not just sexual harassment and with accounts of this, accounts of drunkenness on the job, all of this stuff. You still had a Democrat who voted for him. So do not assume that just because you have a Democratic senator that they're gonna vote no. Like, even with...
Okay, you selected your bad guy? Yeah, that's the entire point of politics. The entire point of politics is selecting the bad guy you want to fight. Yeah.
Unqualified people. You call them and you tell them, I want you to vote no. I want you to block these appointees until, while all this stuff is happening, okay? Use our leverage. Make them fight for every single step. The slower they go, the less they can break, okay? We're bringing things down. Now, in terms of the House, what are some of the things that we are doing that...
Yeah, no checkmark games. I guess I missed the part of this conversation where you have access to a small fighter jet that you're going to go use to blow up the White House. I guess I missed that part of the conversation. Is that the constructive thing you are bringing to the table here? That's your plan? That's your brand of activism? Because if so, probably not that effective to tell people about that here. Probably might want to do that on the DL, you know? Like, I don't know. That's what you heard? No, I'm making fun of you because you're stupid and unserious.
This earlier today, the leader in the House of House Democrats. Sorry, how do I say this? The leader of Democrats in the House is a gentleman from Brooklyn known as Hakeem Jeffries. He is the House Minority Leader, the House...
And he sucks ass.
He sent out a message, a list today with 10 central objectives in terms of things that they're doing. And it's important to recognize what we can do and what we cannot do today. Someone said, a bartender congresswoman talking about qualifications. Hell yeah, I'm going to talk to you about my qualifications.
Fuck
because
yeah.
I know what it's like to be a working class person, and I got elected as the youngest woman in American history to Congress with my knowledge.
I mean, I guess let me know when voting starts doing something, says someone who ostensibly wants democracy in the workplace. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh my god. All right. I'm going to stop getting distracted by obvious Fed posting in chat. All right.
Organize and connect with my community. So when any one of these people can win an election, with that kind of a background and you don't take lobbyist money, then you can give me a call. But until then, these people are seem to be apparently having 3 martini lunches thinking that they can run and command the respect of the Defense Department. So give me a break. Anyways, back to regularly scheduled programming. The leader of House Democrats is Hakeem Jeffries. He sent out a kind of a bulletin today with 10 objectives. Now, remember that theme that I brought up earlier today, divide and conquer. So we're not going to get overwhelmed. We are going to educate ourselves on who is in charge of what, okay? So one thing that we expect to see, and that we expect to see is that House Democrats and legislation is going to be advanced this week to implement mechanisms to help block some of this infiltration that we're having at the U.S. Treasury Department. Also today.
And I'm not gonna lie, I deeply hate Hakeem Jeffries for a wide variety of reasons, right? However, it is nice to know that even though he sucks butt, he is prioritizing different mechanisms to put a stop to what is happening in the Treasury. That has been a deeply underreported story that is quite literally apocalyptic in nature if that meddling continues.
Preview, there were some Democrats that are the heads, the Democratic chair, or not chairs, but what is known as the number 2 ranking members. So just so you know, in the House, the reason why who has majority control of the House matters is because the party with majority control.
Good morning from the Dono Ghost. Ooh.
The Dono Ghost so early. Whoa! Canna Bobrex, thank you for the $5 dono. I appreciate it.
The committees. So it's not just that you have more votes, it's that Republicans will control all the legislation that comes to the floor. Republicans control like all of this stuff. So people are saying, oh, Dems will not pass stop. Please understand, again, do not consent in advance. When Republicans have a majority that is this big.
Yeah, let me put it this way. I guess, if Hakeem Jeffries is at least going to do something about the guy who's throwing Hitler salutes, critical support and all that.
Now, about 2 people. Those 2 people that need to win re-election really, really care about being re-elected, okay? So if we put pressure on, I can name one of them right now in the state of New York. We have Mike Lawler in Westchester County. This is a district that was won by Joe Biden. This was a district that was carried. There are Republican House members that are in districts that Joe Biden carried in 2020. These are districts with enough Democrats in them and enough people who vote Democrat in them that they can be unseated, okay? Those people do care about what you think and how pissed off you are.
Yep.
So if you can you don't need to get 100 Republicans to do something. You can put enough pressure on 4 or 5. And again,
because again, we only need to get at most 4 to vote against Republican priorities. We only need to get 4 of them. We don't need 100 of them.
The issue is not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about our country, y'all. This is not, listen, I have ideas and I have principles that I feel very strongly about. Yeah, I believe every American should be guaranteed healthcare in this country. Sue me, okay? Oh wow, I believe that people should have a living wage. Oh no, fine. Recoil in horror at my big crazy ideas that people should be alive and cared for in this country, fine. But this is not that. This is basic, keep the lights on, follow the law type stuff. And these are things
Yeah, I mean, this is basic. Keep the lights on, follow the law, because if you don't, our entire like economic infrastructure is going to detonate and take the entire global economy with it. You know, like does that being the stakes kind of does coerce a bit of bipartisanship out of Republicans, I think, when push comes to shove.
Republicans can lose elections over. And if we start sending the message that they can do that starting now, then we can start getting some traction and some momentum. Because if you think government is like a George Foreman grill and you can just set it and forget it, I regret to inform you that that is not how participatory democracy works. So we gotta lock in and we gotta start getting people quaking in their electoral boots, okay? And so we have to start doing Westchester County. If you're in Westchester County, if you're in Rockland County, if you're out here, I'm gonna need you to start making some phone calls saying, what are you doing about this, okay? Yep. To your representative.
Which is why it's always worth putting pressure on your Democratic representatives in Congress, as well as your Republican representatives in Congress. You never know when your Republican might be like deeply worried about potential polling they have, or deeply worried that like their district is slowly turning more blue, you know, from the demographic census data they get. You know, like you never know. So apply that pressure, because you might genuinely change their mind on an issue, not because, you know, their heart has been touched, but because they are, you know, creatures trying to preserve themselves.
You have a Republican representative, you should be making a phone call. Oh, they don't listen, it doesn't matter. Don't consent in advance. Don't consent in advance. This is how it works.
Yeah, don't consent in advance, but also don't consent in advance in this particular case, because you can just do it for the thrill of the game, you know? Call your local Republican elected official, visit your local Republican official's office, because it forces them to stop what they're doing, pay attention to you, even if they don't like what you're saying, and frankly, takes up their time and irritates them and possibly scares them into having better positions. And that seems like just a bunch of wins all rolled into one.
They don't listen, they don't pick up the phone, they don't care, they're gonna vote the other way anyway. They need to know you are paying attention. They need to know that you are pissed off, okay? If they don't think that you're pissed off, if they don't think that you're not paying attention, they're gonna go faster. Even if your call makes them think twice, it is effective. And I will tell you, listen, I have sat on the steps of the Capitol when there have been people protesting and yelling at members as they walk in. And the thing that members do is that they ignore them and they keep walking and they act like their ears are full of cement and that they can't hear. I can tell you they can hear, and I can tell you that it affects them. They put on a face that it doesn't. Or they might tell Elon Musk is one of the thinnest skinned MFers I have ever encountered in my life. That dude, you can get him twisted by looking at him. Like, he is so insecure, which is why he's a white supremacist. Like, you...
Girl, you reading him. You reading him 100% correct here. I love it.
These people rely on this ideology.
He's not a white supremacist. He did a Nazi salute, guy. He retweets and amplifies neo-Nazis to like hundreds of millions of people. Like, not a white supremacist. Shut the fuck up. Like, Would a white supremacist do a Hitler salute? Would a white supremacist, amplify the guy responsible for Ron DeSantis' son and Rod ad? I didn't think so.
Because they need something to hang their hat of superiority on. Clear.
Would a white supremacist neo-Nazi be leading a team full of griper children into the highest echelons of government with no background clearances whatsoever to be there? It's really weird that this guy who's clearly not a white supremacist or a neo-Nazi would associate all the time with white supremacists and neo-Nazis. It's weird to me, like it's so bizarre that like all of his underlings currently working at Doge are like white supremacist neo-Nazis who retweet actual honest to God Nazis constantly. That's so big, sometimes we all make mistakes. And, who hasn't just accidentally, continuously, like Sideshow Bob with a bunch of rakes, just constantly, accidentally retweeted neo-Nazis, You guys all have that experience, right? When you're on social media and you see a take that you vehemently agree with and you retweet it, and then, geez, wouldn't you know it? It's a white supremacist neo-Nazi again! And that's the 5th time this week. All of those non-white supremacist neo-Nazis who watched Nick Fuentes, a self-avowed white supremacist neo-Nazi. Yeah, just a bunch of whoopsie doodles all hanging out together with their swastikas and sun and rods. God. Were you hit by a shovel as a child? Is that what explains this? Am I being ableist right now by going off on this entire bit? Because I feel like it, maybe. I recall someone saying you should bother/bully the people who work at a congressman's office. Do you think that's an effective strategy? Yeah, but, you do it politely. Like organizing to apply political pressure is just, organized bullying of politicians. Like that's what that is, right? But if you're going to go to their office to actually talk to the people who work there, you have to be polite. You have to be firm with why you're there and, what ideals you represent, but you have to be polite.
Money isn't enough for this dude. He needs he needs to cling on to this to feel better then, because he has a complex, all right? Like this is deeply psychological. This is what happens when you don't go to therapy, dude. This is what happens whatever. They got their own personal problems and they're taking it out on society. But the point is that that's also.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like at this point, Robbie H., I feel like at this point, when we are in the middle of a constitutional crisis where fascists are on the verge of being able to take supreme control of government, being real picky about your allies in the fight against that is pretty collaborationist to me. I don't know. Seems pretty dog shit to collaborate with fascists who are actively pursuing the genocide of people in Gaza as well as other groups around the world. And I don't know, pretty cucked. Stop it. Get better positions. Get your head out of your ass.
Systems interact, right? Like these people need to feel or exert some kind of power. And that is why the last principle is that you do not give them your fear. Do not give them your fear. Do not give them your anxiety. Do not give them your panic. This is a monster that eats fear. This is a monster that eats and feeds on your anxiety, on your paralysis.
Hey, Robbie H., what's your really constructive suggestion? I've interacted with a lot of folks like you. What's your really constructive suggestion for the moment we are in right now? I'm open. Lay it on me. What is your political theory of change in this very moment in time? No, I'm asking you for your political theory of change right in this moment, right now. What are you suggesting we do to fix the problems that currently beset us? How do you fix the constitutional crisis right now? No, the constitutional crisis we're in right now with the fascist currently in charge of the United States with control over the Treasury system. Yeah, but you're not understanding my question. How are we fixing what we're doing right now? With Elon Musk, with unilateral control over the Treasury system that directs trillions of dollars annually, and very specifically is circumventing the powers granted to Congress by the Constitution. So I'm asking you right now, what are you proposing we do? Because if you're not going to be constructive right now in this moment, you are not adding anything to the conversation outside of stroking your own ego until you come all over chat. So give me like something. What is your plan right now to fix the current situation that we are currently talking about dealing with? I'm going to give you one more chance. If the next thing you post in chat is not a direct answer to the very direct question I'm asking you, you're going to get banned. So what is your solution to the current constitutional crisis we are in that is Donald Trump on the verge of becoming a dictator by circumventing the powers of the purse afforded to Congress by the Constitution? Unions and forming a new party. How are you going to do that exactly under a fascist? Just out of curiosity. How you going to do that? You're like, he's going to have all of the money and unilateral control over the government. How you making unions? Now, I'm asking you, Robbie H., I'm asking you very specifically about this moment in time where a fascist is in control of the government. It's called capitalism. Oh, Robbie, you're actually dumber than I thought you were. Yeah. You know, that's pretty telling, man. When wasn't a fascist in charge of the government? Yeah, words just don't mean anything, I guess. Yeah. Words don't mean anything. It's not like there's entire essays on fascism that one could peruse. It's not like there are entire books written about this subject that might elucidate this moment in time. Was Biden a good guy to you? No, he was a neoliberal, which is different from being a fascist. You might understand if you knew that words meant things, actually. I'm a socialist. Biden was never a good guy. He committed genocide. He did. And now you know what? Donald Trump is going to commit a genocide, and it's going to be much worse. Like, I don't know. Like, this is like after the Holocaust happened, suddenly getting Hitler 2, and then Hitler 2's main platform is, what if we killed all the Jews this time around the world? And you're like, oh, yeah, well, we'll just make unions and a new political party at some point in the future. And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, so you're just abandoning people to die so you can busily stroke your own ego. Gotcha. Gotcha. Hey, Robbie H., your solution to the current problem of a fascist being in charge of the United States is forming unions when the guy who recognizes unions controls the NLRB and the military and all of the funding and has circumvented Congress. So, like, your idea is bad. And honestly, if we were in, like, I don't know, revolutionary France, everyone would laugh at you for having a tiny dick until you left the room to be, like, beheaded by some kind of, I don't know, contraption that they were experimenting with. Not a guillotine, mind you, but, like, some, like, off-brand guillotine. Like, it's bizarre. It's not like 1912 again, you absolute tiny-dicked moron. Jesus Christ. You know, I don't believe that the suffering of human beings actually matters to you. I think you care more about virtue signaling than you do about actual constructive organizing. And I know that because I organize people. I've been organizing people for political causes for years now. And people like you don't do shit. You talk about forming a new political party every 4 years, and in the intervening amount of time, you do exactly dick. You do dick. And then you're like, well, what if we had a new party? And then you do dick about it for 4 years, and you're, what if we do a new party? Dick. New party, dick. New party, dick. Like, that's what you guys do, man. And you want to know the saddest part about the kinds of political parties you guys attach yourselves to? They're less successful than the fucking libertarians. And the libertarians are jokes every single time. And then when we actually have a crisis, right? When we actually have a crisis, there are mass deportations, there are concentration camps being built in the United States, there's genocide ramping up in different corners of the world under the purview of the, U.S. government. When we actually have a crisis and we're trying to figure out how we can actually fight against that, your brilliant contribution is, what about party, dick? Like, it's the same thing. Get a new song. Get new material. Boo! God, if this was a stand-up comedy show, people would boo you until you pissed yourself on stage. That's the entire, amount you contribute to any kind of political conversation. When I ask you, well, okay, what's your solution to the current problem we're in? You're like, well, what if we time traveled to 4 years ago and did something different? But the issue is you're never willing to do something different now. You never actually show up to organize now. You guys are not serious. And that's the most infuriating part about people like you. Because I actually have respect and have worked alongside people who do take your position seriously. And you know what? They're cool as shit. But people like you don't do anything. It's just a virtue signal. It's just so you can act holier than thou. And you know what? I don't have time for that. Oh yeah, you're too morally pure for the Green Party. Get the fuck out of here. What if we made a new party, though, instead of the Green Party? Huh, guys? Who's with me? 4 years from now, shows up with 3 people. This is my new political party! Wonderful theory of change there, by the way. Let's get back to someone who's actually serious about organizing people to prevent, the catastrophic implosion of the country and, by extension, the entire economic world. So let's take a look.
Your fear, and that is what sustains them. Don't give it to
Also, let's just one last thing. Seriously, the coolest option is to just take over the Democratic Party. That's the best. That's the coolest option. You show up, you radicalize a bunch of 80-year-olds or push them out of the party, take over your local, like, Senate district or whatever, and suddenly you have a bunch of socialists controlling the Democratic Party. That would be the coolest option. God damn it. Absolute useless, feckless turds. Hey, what if we just used all of our no money to make a new political party for 3 people? Wouldn't that be cool? Or, you know, you could, like, get 15 people together, take over your local Democratic Party, and actually, you know, get people elected and do shit in your local community. That'd be probably the coolest option, you know? The one that actually allows you to do things. Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership. I appreciate it.
Yes, this time is scary. Do not give them your panic.
Zeke, I already did the other day. I saw that Ken Martin was DNC chair, and, like, it's not the worst option. Definitely not the best option. I'm not, like, super happy about it. I think Ben Wickler was the only candidate that actually had a stomach to rise to the occasion, but I guess I'm hoping I'm proven wrong on that one. Ken Martin's pretty all right. He's from my state, but, like, he's, like, pretty all right by liberal standards, you know? Ben Wickler was actually a good all-around candidate.
ICE is another example. Just the actual activity that ICE is doing is relatively limited, especially compared to the...
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Ken Martin saying, like, I'll accept money from the good billionaires is kind of a failure of his ideological, you know, viewpoint. And I would say, you know, kind of an indication of not a guy who's going to be able to live up to the current political moment, but, you know, maybe I'll be wrong. I hope I am.
And what they're showing on TV. They're making it look way worse. It's bad. It's bad. But they're making it look bigger. And the reason they are doing that is because people are going to take actions on their own. They believe that when you show it to be really big, that people will consent in advance.
Also, can I just say that, like, real quick, and because I want to be done with this derailment, right? One thing I appreciate about AOC giving these types of talks is that in this talk, she gave multiple actionable items for people to do in order to improve things. You know, maybe just a little bit, right? You know, you can improve things by knowing your rights and informing others of their rights, you know, whether you are documented or undocumented, right? And that in turn helps keep other people safe. And if enough of us do that, we can ensure that we keep a whole swath of people safe from ICE deportation, right? And, like, that's just, like, one actionable item she gave. And, like, that is more than anything that the person who was posting in chat about how she's, like, a genocidal traitor or whatever has ever done for anyone in their local community. And she's able to put that out to, you know, millions of people. And it's like, her doing an informational video achieves more than that person has ever done in their life for undocumented people everywhere. And it's like, that's not even taking into account her actual career, you know?
Tell you, in my community, there are people that...
Like, if you're gonna, I guess if you're gonna come into my chat and get on a high horse, you better be ready to talk about what you're doing for, you know, undocumented folks. You better be ready to talk about what you're doing for trans people. You better be ready to talk about what you're doing to, you know, end the fascist scourge of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, you know? What are you doing about the Sieg-heiling Nazis in the Republican Party, huh? So, yeah. Also, very knifey duck. Thank you for the $5 dono. I appreciate it.
A heartbreaking fashion doing that. They are pulling their kids out of school. So our babies are not getting educated. They're pulling their kids out of school because they're scared. Keep your kids in school if you can. If you can.
Live for life. Stop being insufferable. Please stop. This is your maybe final warning.
Situation is different. Everyone's life is different. But if you can, keep your babies in school. You need them in school. There are people.
Let me put it this way. I've been up for like 24 hours at this point. My tolerance for people being irritating as shit is gone. So proceed at your peril, I guess.
That are already planning to pre-separate their family and leave their children.
Yeah, and One-Eyed Gould, that's exactly why I talk about people needing to get involved in their local DSA, and if at all possible, use people from DSA to go and radicalize your local Dems. That way, you can have access to the resources of Democrats while using DSA to radicalize them. I feel like that's a win-win. And we should be pursuing that everywhere, as a matter of course, as a matter of strategy.
Guardians here in the United States and the parents.
Hell yeah, One-Eyed Gould. Keep up the fight.
On their own volition.
I'm trying to do it in my neck of the woods too.
The law is such that they would have to wait 10 years in another country. And so they're saying, well, if I'm going to get deported, in order to avoid that, I'm going to leave on my own. I'm going to leave my baby here. And then when my baby turns 18, then we can try to reunite legally. And these are heartbreaking decisions that are happening. Absolutely heartbreaking decisions. But they are, these are heavy, serious decisions that are happening in response to this image and this fear that they're trying to project out here.
Brianna Arabia, thank you for the $2 super
all
chat.
All that is to say, do not give them your fear.
Hey, Nindreen.
On top of the things functionally, let's go back to what Democrats are doing. Another thing that Democrats are doing is that we are coordinating, right? We do not have majorities in the House, and we do not have majorities in the Senate. Especially in the House, that means that our...
Well, the thing is, I do think some kinds of third-party action can work. Notably, DSA. I think DSA does an excellent job being a functional and effective third party in America.
To investigate, to launch investigations, etc., are very limited because we don't hold the gavels to the committees that would direct a lot of this legislation or investigations. And so what we can do is that we can partner across state and other sorts of governments.
Merocat, you can make DSA what you want. So yes, you can absolutely introduce a motion to, or, the idea, bring it up in the meeting and have people vote on it. I'm not exactly sure the processes you'd have to go through to make that happen, but I know you could do that. Maybe ask somebody like the party chair or something to help walk you through your idea. But also, people can attend DSA meetings digitally. So you can attend via Zoom, and that is one way to make it much more accessible. So I did not sleep, Max left.
To pursue strategies, right? And so, for example, the House, with response to the federal freeze, we cannot sue the president. We don't have the legal standing to sue the president. And people say, oh, courts, it doesn't matter. Do not consent in advance. I don't want to hear that stuff doesn't matter. This is what the headlines are trying to get you to do, right?
Because the second you start saying it doesn't matter and you stop taking action, that's the entire point of them telling you that it doesn't matter. When fascists look you in the eye and say, well, it doesn't matter, so you shouldn't even do anything, they're playing a trick on you.
I'd pay $500 for that rant if I had it. Chef's kiss.
Judy Phillips, thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so goddamn much.
Yeah, guess what? He signed an executive order saying I'm ending birthright citizenship. Did birthright citizens?
Functionally, I do not see how people are like, oh, we'll just form more unions and a new political party. I don't see how that is functionally different from apathy when it comes from people who have no intention of unionizing any workplaces or actually forming a functional party capable of winning an election. You know? To me, that's the same as apathy. It's the same as giving up anyway.
In this country? No, it didn't. It got torn down in a matter of seconds. Not seconds, but you know what I mean. Legislatively, in a legislative context, it got knocked down. He did it for the headline. He did it for like just the buzz, okay? The courts still do matter. They file injunctions. It can stop things. So the point for some of this stuff is to get you to think that something is happening when it's not. When it's not. So that executive order went nowhere. There are 20 lawsuits 20 different lawsuits in response to these executive orders that Trump announced that are working their way, and they're heading to court. And if you run an organization and you got a letter from the federal government saying you need to do this, that, and the other to comply with those executive orders, keep an eye on those lawsuits and make sure that these things can happen, and make sure.
Absolutely, rot guts, and I'm very supportive of independent rank and file union movements, and I'm really, really looking forward to 2028 when the UAW and assorted other unions it's been working with all have their contracts expire at the same time. That's going to be one of the closest moments we get in our lifetimes so far to a general strike, and I'm really excited at that possibility. And once we do that, that opens a lot of doors for the future. You know, it opens a lot of doors for the future. Man, live for life. Why you being so fucking weird? Stop it. Stop being a weirdo.
Again, to slow down is to stop their damage. Now, all of that, we also have the heads of the Democratic heads of the major committees that are being affected, the Judiciary Committee, Appropriations, Oversight, Budget, are going to be providing individual updates. So if you're asking, what about USAID? Well, we will talk about USAID, but what is happening about USAID? I want you to think about the Democratic head of what is known as HVAC, the House Foreign Affairs Committee. That's Gregory Meeks, also a New Yorker. As well as not just him, but just look up the Democrats who are on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. And if you look at those folks, they will tell you what we are doing on each individual issue. Judiciary, appropriations, and budget when it comes to the money stuff. There is stuff that's going on, okay?
And honestly, this is a really excellent point to make because I feel like I need a whiteboard to like write down the different committees and the different Democrats on the committees so that we can like keep track of this. I feel like that would be a good thing for us to do. Maybe I don't have a whiteboard, but maybe I'll figure something out here.
So we have 20 different lawsuits in court. Many of those people went to these buildings today. They went to those buildings today. People are saying, I want Democrats to show up at buildings. Democrats showed up at buildings today. You can look it up. Gregory Meeks, Jamie Raskin, Ilhan Omar, they were there. Okay? And
we covered that. And also, those are people we need to keep in mind as the crisis deepens, okay? We need to keep them in mind, check in with what they're up to, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And when House comes back into session tomorrow, I would anticipate you seeing a lot more physical kind of activity going on as well. So one of the important things to do is that I want you to get familiar with who's on the committees in Congress. And I want you to familiarize yourself. Like, level 1 is like, call your congressman. Level 2 is know what committee your congressman's on. or Congresswoman, sorry, member of Congress, or any person, any gender. Y'all know what I mean. You're a member of Congress. And once we start being able to map these things out, again, having knowledge of these things is incredibly important in navigating and making the decisions we need on how to expend our energy. So we are starting there. But I know that this was a lot. I know I dumped a lot for you. And again, your assignments are to call your senator. I know, if you have a Democratic senator, call your Democratic senator. Call your senator, period. But there is no person that should say, oh, my senator is so-and-so, they don't need my call. Call your senator and tell them you don't want them approving Trump's cabinet picks while all this chaos is going on. Pump the...
Well, Zeke, actually, Jerry was at the USAID building the other day. Looked absolutely miserable, but he was there.
Number 2, if you don't want to call your senator, I want you to look up, print out some Know Your Rights cards, and I want me and my team, we were out there, and my team was out there on Roosevelt Avenue, and we were taping Know Your Rights cards to food carts, to businesses. We're putting them in bodegas. Do that. Tape it up. If you don't even want to do that, if you're too tired,
something, man.
Just look up your own rights. Go on my Instagram page, or go sign up for my newsletter in here, because we're going to be sending out printable PDFs for everybody shortly, and you can keep an eye out for that. And if you have a Republican member near you, I would like you to volunteer, to start volunteering now. Make the commitment now to help win the nearest swing seat to you. And not just winning the seat, not just an election, but being consistently engaged, calling them, seeing them, engaging them. What do you do about it? What do you feel about it? And put them on the record. Make them answer for what is going on. I'm telling you, it matters. We are in the Wizard of Oz. They want you to think that it's this big green floating head that is too big to confront, when they are little men with little fragile, rather big fragile egos. And their feelings are easily hurt, and they are also easily shaken, and they overcompensate by saying, oh, we're gonna, whatever, with shows of force or mocking people, or, this is the thing, this is why they punch down. Elon punches down because he can't punch across. And then he wants to make, these people want you to think that, that the lady selling churros on the corner is part of a mass conspiracy. No, dude. It's the big corporations. They are trying to distract you from what they're doing. And so stay focused, take a breath, understand what I laid out when it comes to USAID. There's also going to be actions on there as well. We are seeing Marco Rubio did the opening silo. We can use the Senate votes as leverage to halt what is happening at USAID. And I would anticipate, because they got up to all this, they waited until Congress flew out for the week in order to start all this nonsense. And when everyone is flying back tomorrow, you can anticipate a lot more activity. And so I think that I've given you all enough. Understand that your everyday small actions matter. They matter. Letting someone know that they are safe with you matters. Showing up matters. Asking someone that you know if they know their rights matters. And these people feed off our fear, and they feed off our apathy, and most of all, they feed off of the nihilism, this disease, this cynicism of this notion that nothing we do matters and nothing we do makes an impact, so that we don't do it. Don't listen to them. This is a mentality thing that they are coming after first and foremost. That is why they are trying to control your attention. They are trying to control your attitudes and beliefs, and they are trying to control your emotional state, right? They want you consumed with and paying attention to their narrative and headline. They want to make sure that that you feel overwhelmed. They want you to feel like nothing matters so that you don't try, because if you do try, there are times where you will win. So they don't want you to try at all. Try, okay? And again, they want you in a state, they want to control your emotions because they want you in a state of paralysis. They want you in a state of not doing anything so that they can just drive on flat road. Because again, these people are little, they are weak. They are also...
They wouldn't be trying to grasp this hard if they weren't weak. They wouldn't be trying so desperately to shut us down with this type of like blitzkrieg of information if they weren't weak as shit, you know?
Very powerful things. Two things are possible at once, right? But understand that as humans, as human beings, we outnumber them. Do not give up the strategic advantage of our numbers, okay? The small acts matter. They matter. And do what you can. Do what you can. And do not submit to the belief. And do what you can and know that what you can do is enough, okay? I've shared a bunch on this live. I've given you some perspective. I'm sure there's so much going on that there are things that I may not have addressed. For that, I apologize. We will come back to it. I will be back. We will be chatting a lot over the next couple of years, okay?
Yep.
So there you have it. Love y'all. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Bye-bye.
Exactly what a genocide apologist would say. A question that might be too theoretical, just skip it if it's not the right moment, takes too long. How can strikes work if fascists want the smart people to quit? Like air traffic controllers, for example, as you talked about unions. That's the thing when it comes to fascists. Fascism is a death cult ideology, right? Like, if they are hell-bent on breaking union power, they will just fire all of the workers, right? And then they'll just bring in barely qualified or untrained folks to fill the gaps. And the accidents that are inevitable will happen, and they'll just be, that's the price of doing business, you know? Under fascism, unions don't exist, you know? Like, any unions that thrive under fascism thrive because they collaborate with the fascist state. They become an arm of the fascist state, you know? So it's not... By the time fascism has taken hold, unions are not really on the table as an option anymore. There's a reason, you know, Hitler destroyed the unionization movement in Germany. You know, so anyone who's saying, well, the solution right now against Donald Trump is unions and another party, and no, they're not serious people. Their entire existence is dedicated to getting approval from their social peers, and they care about that more than they care about any kind of actual political achievement. So, let's examine what we learned from that AOC call, right? Number one, I think for me, is that a large reason Democrats have been largely inactive is because Donald Trump planned a lot of this to take place while Congress was not in session, thereby a lot of members of Congress not being in front of cameras as much and not having as big of a platform with which to combat his efforts, right? So we learned that was one of the reasons. Action thus far has not seemed forthcoming from Dems. That being said, we also learned that Democrats inside the party, even milquetoast neo-libs, recognize that there is a pretty significant problem here, an existential problem, a 5-alarm fire type problem with Elon Musk and his crew of neo-Nazi 19-year-olds getting access to the most sensitive data on the planet. I believe MSNBC was reporting that this is the worst data breach in the history of the world, and honestly, that might be an accurate framing of it. And as we learned earlier in the evening, a 25-year-old named Marco Alez, working for Doge, under Elon Musk's order, has gained administrative privileges over the entire U.S. Treasury payment system. So that is a ship that has sailed. They do have access to it. They can edit it. And it remains to be seen what they're going to do with that power. Though, again, it is either to solidify Donald Trump as essentially a fascist dictator who can circumvent Congress and the Constitution, or whether it is going to just be irrevocably broken by, children tampering with something they don't understand. So those are kind of the two possibilities left at this point. And if it is broken, we're kind of fucked. There's not really any getting around that. That being said, it is good to know that Democrats recognize this existential danger and are moving to try and stop it. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
I grew up Christian conservative, was apathetic about politics my whole life. Transitioned last year finally and just joined the DSA because of you. I want to help make a difference.
Hell yeah, Toph the Goblin. Thank you for the $10 super chat, and also thank you for joining DSA. We need more voices. We need more people power in there. So thank you for stepping up and taking the plunge. We gotta organize in DSA and then pressure the inside of the Democratic Party. That's my goal. So yeah. What about a lot more of what AOC said? What can we take away from that? Well, obviously, another big part of this is that these are not fascist masterminds. The fascism is incidental, which is maybe a comfort, because their plot is genuinely kind of like Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard. They just want to steal. That's their main goal. Their main goal is to make a bunch of money. And everything else is kind of obfuscation, right? So the goal of trying to achieve these $4.6 trillion, $5 trillion, $6 trillion tax cuts that rely on, shafting the entire United States or the entire working people of the United States with higher, taxes, as well as tariffs, as well as cutting $2 trillion from Medicaid. This is an apocalyptic plan. However, it is somewhat heartening that there are plans in place from even, pretty weak members of Congress, generally, to, frustrate any kind of passage to the effect of cutting Medicaid to that degree. So hopefully this will help, Let's see, what else can we take away from this? Oh yeah, understanding the overall narrative of this conflict, this political conflict, is useful to kind of demystifying it, to make it less scary. That doesn't mean we have less work to do. We still have to go out there and participate in like training sessions so that people know their rights when ICE comes knocking. You know, we still got to go out there and we got to like organize in different districts that are particularly vulnerable to getting flipped. We've got to do a lot of stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff on our plate. And specifically, if you are in New York City, I fully expect you, if you are a member of this community, to get involved with the effort to flip Elise Stefanik's seat to Democrat. If we can do that, we will be much better positioned, even after the seats are filled. You know, they will effectively only gain one seat. Wait, sorry. They will effectively just have 3 seats more than us instead of 4, and that makes a huge difference with the margins we're talking about, okay? And I think that this is going to be kind of some important stuff, you know, to pay attention to actually action on. And the more we organize for stuff like this, the better organized we are going to be for midterms, for the the 2028 election. And I think that's inherently a good thing. We should be getting ready for those fights because they're fights we need to win. Yeah, we're in dire times, but also we're doing okay. Dems need 4 seats. Well, Dems aren't going to win 4 seats in the special elections. But because of the special elections, the margin of Republicans over Democrats is only 2 seats. Because I believe 2 of the Republican seats are empty at the moment. And I think one of those seats is the New York seat from Elise Stefanik. So that is definitely a winnable seat right there. We're in the cool zone, baby. A lot of things can happen. Let's see here. What else? Yeah. We gotta work together to make sure that this fascism does not spread, does not begin to target other groups. Gotta make sure that we are, doing our best. Because the reason it has gotten this bad in this country is apathy. It is the apathy that has been deliberately cultivated by the two-party system in this country, and the only antidote to apathy is getting out there and showing people that you care. You know, it is getting people to care by trying, by accomplishing, by doing. And simply sitting around and wishing for things to be different does not make it so. So we got to roll up our sleeves, know our enemy, and get to work. And I think that this overview and primer from AOC is pretty vital for getting us to do that in this time of crisis. And I hope that gave you guys some hope. I hope that it allayed some of your fears, and I hope it made you feel a bit more powerful, because our enemies are stupid as shit. And you know what? I think we're gonna beat them. We got a lot of people. They don't. And they don't have brains. So, let's get out there and get to work, folks. Hope to see you out there. Whew. What have I just walked in on? Paradise. Apathy is death. It's true, Xerex. It's true. Democrats won't... Well, no, but I wasn't trying to say Democrats will win 4 seats, but I am saying that I think there's a shot we could flip Elise Stefanik's seat. I'm getting mixed signals. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at. I don't know. Not this stream. Fuck off. Oh, you threw 2 pennies at me. You thought I was gonna keep you around. Get fucked. Whew. Apathy is likely what kept people home during the voting season as well. It absolutely was. You know, Democrats abandoning the working class kept people home. And, you know, if we want to turn things around, we gotta change the Democrats so that and make them pro-working class, you know? That takes work. Maybe that crazy guy in the house that his family has penned open letters and did videos against his election? What? Really appreciated hearing Representative Omar and Ocasio-Cortez. Oh, you mean genocide supporters? God. People are so deeply unserious. You know, I get it. Liberals suck ass. You know, maybe we could flip his seat. Is his seat up for grabs? I don't know where he's based out of. We're skipping sleep today. Well, I'm gonna be going to sleep pretty soon, but I like talking with you guys. Really appreciate the calls you make to action. So many leftist people online behave like you have to go to them for answers, but never encourage actions. Yeah, I would really like you guys to go out and take actions and surpass me. That would be my goal, you know? Thank you for sharing this. It was vital for me. I will make plans with local Democrats here in South Dakota. Link that toolkit in chat again. Excellent idea. I was going to do it at the end and totally forgot. Thank you for reminding me, Charlotte Nova. Here you guys go. This is, again, Working Families Party, Indivisible, and Move On put together this excellent document that you can use to create events for you and others in your community to go to the offices of your elected officials and talk to them in person, which is the most effective way of applying pressure and reaching out to them. Do it to your local Dems, do it to your local Republicans, and also, like, there's a script in here that you can use to talk with them. So if you are, you aren't really sure what you are going to bring up or what to talk about or what to say or how you should act or any of that, all of that should be in this guide. You can even create your own event here under the register your event URL. And when you register your event, that makes it an event that other people can then find and go to. And that is really, really cool. So if you want to apply pressure and get other people to come with you, that would be a tool you can use. And then the toolkit has like quick jumps to other different parts of the doc, like what's happening, the ask, how to plan your Senate state office visit, talking points for Senate Democrats, talking points for Senate Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. So it makes it really easy. And if you're looking to kind of get experience in doing stuff like this would be an excellent place to start, folks. Yeah, Rad Rabbit, I don't care for purity politics much at all. I don't care about the politics being pure or not. What I care about is the results. I want us to get to a world, where we have housing for all, Medicare for all, where we get democracy into the workplace, where we get democracy in our government, where we are free of billionaires pouring $250 million into national or even local races. I want us to get to that world, and I am willing to work with people I disagree with in order to achieve parts of that vision. The idea that, like, you know, everyone you work with must be in lockstep with what you believe is silly. You know, like that's not how any human endeavor has ever worked. And the demand for ideological purity is something I don't understand. I know what I believe, and I will continue to believe it regardless of what other people are doing. But like some people just can't get over themselves. And it is like, at the end of the day, people who demand that ideological purity, they're doing it out of selfishness. They are doing it for themselves rather than for whatever, you know, movement they are trying to build. And it is deeply frustrating, and I view it as inherently a very selfish thing to do. Yeah. I want a community of people who do stuff together and prioritize action. I don't necessarily need a community where everyone believes the same thing. You know? Link to the toolkit. Did I miss YouTube? Here you go. Also, Patrick Lucas, thank you for the gifted membership. I really appreciate it. And folks, we've been going for over 3.5 hours. We're almost at 4 hours, actually. If you've been enjoying the stream, if you got anything good out of this, please hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream, and please consider dropping subs, donos, memberships, super chats, etc., because I did not sleep tonight because I wanted, and it felt it really important that I get all this out to you. So if this has been helpful to you at all, please consider supporting stream, because you guys are what make this show possible. Wouldn't that be like cultish if it was? I mean, kinda, yeah. We doing another Segi? No. How do you feel about the Young Turks? I dislike them a lot. Anna used to be a friend of the show. I've had her on a couple times, and you know, back before she went crazy. And now I'm deeply embarrassed about that association. Her shout out for my show on the Young Turks used to be the channel trailer for my show. And I have since taken it down because yikes. Aw.
You've been incredibly helpful.
Gabriella Tito, thank you very much for the $20 super chat. I very, very much appreciate that. Thank you so much. Whew. Meowing Star, yes, please do not donate in a way that would put you in a tough spot. I never want anyone to donate like that. Don't forget sleep. I'll sleep. Don't you guys worry. I'll do sleeping at some point here. Whew. Idea, those vids with Anna are excellent side-by-side material for then and now. That is true. Yeah. Is there any updates on whether SSI, SSDI,
You totally
Snap have been
deserve
cut
this,
off?
girl.
Yo, Stolas, thank you for the tier 3 sub. I hope you enjoy your I think it's blood red colored name. Huh? Or is it a gold name? Leave a comment. What color is your name? Charlotte Nova, thank you for the $5 dono. Twitchy-tism, honestly, at this point, given the fact that Elon Musk has agents that have administrative access to the Treasury payment system, any, the bets are off. SSI, SSDI, Snap, they could be cut off at any time. With that level of access, those could be turned off whenever on a whim. Teal star. No, you've got the teal star and the golden name. It's not piss yellow, it's gold. You're a gold member. I'm trying to figure out if it's actually changing her, if it's my own perception, you fucking weirdo. What? What? Oh, you were talking about Anna. Okay, gotcha. I was a little confused. I was like, what did I do? Gold like a shower. Oh man, you guys are in the gutter already. All right. I mean, I think it's the changing politics. It's hard, it's hard to be attracted to someone who has shitty politics and like shitty values, And like I don't know, like a lot of her values have changed. So, yeah. No, non-binary, I wasn't talking to you, but I hope you're doing all right. It seems like maybe you're not, but I understand a lot of people aren't doing okay today. She seems less happy too, noticeably so. Yeah. What's... Riverboat Chat wants to know, Javier, what is your opinion on Jenk's attractiveness? Has it changed at all? Oh, man. That segment took a lot out of me, guys. Also, the 7.5 mile run took a lot out of me. Oof. He's got that unk thing still going. Comes off all goofy still. That's true. He does come off as goofy. My God, woman, do you sleep? I did not sleep. I ran 7 miles and then got, I got all libbed up and excited over AOC having a clear and concise breakdown of exactly what is happening and why. And that was exciting enough for me to hop on stream again to talk about why all of this is happening and like share that information with you guys, because I think it's honestly incredibly important that we know it, I will get to bed, young lady. I will do that. Y'all remember, hit the follow button on Twitch, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, like the YouTube stream. and consider dropping those subs and donos. I will be back later tonight. I might just do a video game stream. We'll see, because fuck, I'm tired. But yeah. I hope you all a link to the AOC video. Yeah, here you go. Now that the stream is over, here you go. Just link that in all the chats. And if you lose that link, it is just over on her Instagram. So, that being said, bye everybody. I will see you later.
When the people's will is swayed by a con man's cheap charade, despite the crass misogyny and blatant hypocrisy, when the fascist voices swell, we hear echoes of the past. They vilify the immigrants, the leftists and outcasts. When the opposition croaks and the people just don't vote for the same old tired rhetoric of neoliberal politics, we must organize the fight for our universal rights, for democracy and empathy to permeate this life. For it's not the immigrant who labors for some bread, who's making us toil till we drop dead. No, it's not minorities or peer-reviewed authorities, or queer folks and trans folks, or a multitude of deities. I say all are your comrades and none are your enemies in the momentous fight against all bourgeois priorities. Freedom is not those traditional values crafted from bigotry and classist realities. Freedom is freedom to move and disobey, to rely on one another to keep would-be kings at bay. Say none of us can stand alone against their power. We must stand together and make them cower. For the laws of this land have us used and abused, owned and subordinate to our patriarchal roots. I say it's high time we reinvent this whole operation to make mutual benefit our sole occupation. Because freedom is freedom to move and disobey, to rely on one another to keep would-be kings at bay. Say none of us can stand alone against their power. We must stand together and make them cower. Here we go. Yes, freedom is freedom to move and disobey, to rely on one another to keep would-be kings at bay. Say none of us can stand alone against their power. Rise proletariat and make